Okay, good morning. We'll begin the commissioners meeting.
The flag of the United States of America.
Promised by Zoom. Commissioner Casa and myself are present. Can we do business today? First up, we have the minutes from the the February 7th meeting. Anybody have any changes to that?
You do not.
We approve the minutes presented.
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. I guess Elmer, you can sign that later. Next up, we have payroll. Anybody have any changes, concerns with payroll? I'll move that we approve the payroll as presented.
Second.
All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
He's gonna delay.
I know we got these introductory things. Again, we'll need to call up Mr. Bronson's name for his honorable.
Call.
No.
Yes. All right. Claims against the county. Any issues with those? I'll move to approve. Promise.
You're breaking up a lot. Can you hear me?
Maybe easier for you to have call in.
Can we see one there?
You're froze, Elmer. Me?
Elmer, can you hear us?
Okay, hang on.
I can hear some of it. It's breaking up a lot. Would it be better if I went on the phone? Would that work as well? There'd probably be a delay in the video, but can you guys hear me? I'm seeing you, but I'm not hearing you.
Now we should hear us.
Okay, yes, got it.
Better?
Better.
Okay, so the claims county, let's do the roll call vote. I think we had a first and a second. Blessinger votes in favor.
Aye.
Hostetter votes in favor.
Aye.
That is, okay, thank you. All right, the first thing we have up is the highway supervisor report. For
Don't see the end.
Okay. We have a highway department standards for highway maintenance practices book that was established back when I first started. The reason I had put that together, there were so many unspoken things that, you know, we provide so much shoulder along the road, we do this, we do that, and I decided for better organization that we would just have a handout or a book that gives the guidelines for that. I was going through it here a little back and realized that we've got a few of them that needed to be revised. Some of them were price sensitive based on our material costs and things, and others just needed to be changed. So I'm gonna go through these. Elmer, did you get that email from Mark you had scanned?
Yes, I have it in front of me. Yes.
Okay, okay. So what I'll do is go through these things one at a time. It starts with item number 2, policy 0721-03, standards for dust control on a county road. This was originally approved in July, on July 21st, 2003. The policy defined dust control procedures and listed the latest cost based on 2015 material costs and a price per running foot. What I've simply done is made the change to describe the cost calculation based on square foot of the area, and then to reflect the current material costs at the time of the work, so we don't have to keep going back and revising that standard. So if we're all good with that change will go in this book. So the policy numbers that I have on here are reflective of the dates that they were approved in a commissioner meeting. So on this particular one here, we'll do each one at a time, whether you're all in favor of the change. So any questions on that one?
So you have that the landowner will mark the desired area to be treated.
Yes.
And so that's, you said that's the new part, and then you look at that calculation as you mentioned. How is the landowner mark the desired area?
He will, a lot of times if it's for dust control, he'll go from his property line to his property line or just a little bit more. And then I'll go out and measure the distance and then take that times the width of the road. I'll come up with a square yard calculation. And based on our costs, this is what he'll have to pay for that.
So is the county's policy to do that per order?
Per order.
In other words, what I mean is, you know, you live on Rock Road, whatever, and I just call up and say, I'd like this done, and you'll do it every time?
Yeah.
Okay. As long as they agree to
Yeah,
that.
we get the check in hand first and then we go out and press it.
Okay, great. Okay.
Okay.
I wasn't aware that that's how we did that, so that's
Okay. Good. Any questions on that? Can we get a approval on that change?
how about we just we just approve all of them
Okay.
at one time?
Yeah, that's fine.
That way it probably would speed up the process.
Okay. Next one is policy 0721-04, standards for co-op chip seal by landowners on a county road. This was approved July the 20th, 2004. Policy describes the co-op chip seal program and what it consists of. It also has pricing relative to costs from 2015. The change is to simply describe the cost calculation based again on the square foot of the area and current material costs at the time of work. So basically what that is kind of a 50-50 share. They'll pay for the materials and the highway department will do the work, and that's our contribution. Any questions on that one? If not, we'll move to policy 1221-05. Standard for advertising a job opening at the highway department. This was approved on December 21st, 2005. Policy describes the advancement of existing staff prior to a new hire, if one is qualified. The changes relate to the help and direction of our new HR director and employment interview in front of an interview board consisting of myself, the county engineer, the HR director, county commissioner, representatives, and the foreman in charge of the applicant once they're hired. So that's kind of how we do it now. We used to sit in front of the board of 3 commissioners and myself. But we're doing it differently. That would include a commissioner representative and our HR director.
The only thing I guess I would change on there, number 4, it says after all applicants have been interviewed, commissioners will approve the recommendation. I would put that the commissioners will consider approving the recommendation, or will consider, because I don't, it shouldn't be that the commissioners will 100% agree. I mean,
Okay.
they would 90, I think they would 100, almost 100% of the time, but maybe does that sound okay? You have it that it's that it'll be considered.
Okay.
So. Okay. After all applicants have been interviewed, commissioners will consider the recommendation of hiring. Consider for approval.
Okay. Item number 5.
Commissioner Bramas, you okay with that?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Item number 5 is policy 0505-06, has to do with jury duty and how it was done back then. It's an old description of how the employees were paid. I recommend deleting this policy since everything is pretty much covered in our original handbook. So I'd like to just take that policy out.
No opposition.
Next item, policy 1204-06, standards for exemption to gravel and unimproved county road. This policy was approved in December 4th, 2006, and describes methods of exemption for gravel placed on unimproved roads during that time. We've replaced it with policy number 0917-18, which is our updated plan. And I recommend deleting policy number 1204-06. I think this one here simply says that if they have a homestead tax credit, that the road can be gravelled, which means it is a place of residence.
Okay. That's the one we did in 17.
18.
Or 18.
Yeah.
Anybody have a problem with that? Delete that policy. No.
We good?
Yes, sir.
Next one, policy 0521-08, in-house lunch practice during large snow events. This was originally approved back in May 21st, 2008. Gave a brief description on the protocol during emergency events. Also provided when a meal break was necessary for an off-duty break to eat and rest after 6 consecutive hours, and that time was unpaid. The revision comes with terminology from the U.S. Department of Labor, giving us a more defined practice of that policy. So there. Normally what we had done before, if they were working 4 or 5 hours on like a Saturday morning or something like that, plowing snow, it got to be around noon. We would let them take off, not having lunch, but there were different circumstances. Some of them it's 12, 12:30, 1 o'clock, so we just better define the cutoff. After you work 6 consecutive hours, you will be required to get out of the machine and take that break. It helps your nerves and everything. And at that point, that half hour for lunch will be deducted. So, any problems with that one?
The employees currently on, so the current revision, it says the employees on the clock will be paid through an evening dinner period. Regular lunch would not be. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And did Marky review that? From an HR standpoint, that we're paying somebody for being off for a meal. I don't know that we're doing that elsewhere.
Okay. Well, a lot of times they're not taking that particular.
Okay, no, I think it's fine.
Okay.
Let's, Mr. Brahmas, any problem there?
No, I think I'm good there. Steve and I discussed this at one point last week or week before, and I think I'm good there.
Okay. Item number 8 is policy 0427-09, standards for floodgate operation, which came into use again over this weekend. Approved on March 9th, 2009, the policy describes the gate closure and reopening procedures during flood events and identifies the locations of each gate. The only change here is the addition of another set of floodgates that's located on County Road 400 South and 130 West northeast of Huntingburg. So that's the only change made to that one. Good. Okay, that takes care of the policy book, and I believe we keep one in here. I'm going to get that updated to the new one here as well. Sandy, did you want a book copy or did you want a digital?
I don't know which way we're rather have to the payroll.
Okay,
That's good, and I'll let you know.
okay. Yeah, let me know and then I'll.
Might be better to have it. Just off my head. People even comes over and we have.
We'll make those changes and we get that to you then. Item number 9, additional appropriation. I think you'll find this page on the attachments that I had given you. As we continue to pursue fuel tax reimbursement with the help of Malcon Consulting Services, we need an additional appropriation in the amount of $16,500 to be placed in MVH unrestricted contractual services. That is for the maximum amount anticipated for recovery and help catch us up through 2021.
Can you explain that to me again? What is, how does that work out?
Okay, they are going back and recouping any reimbursable monies that we might have paid on fuel purchases, and they get a percentage. Sandy, do you remember what that percentage was again?
If they recover $1, we get a portion, they get a
We
portion.
get 50
Yeah.
cents.
Malcon gets a portion of what they collect.
It's 50% up to,
They have a cap.
They've
Yes.
got a cap.
$3,000. But anyway, why do we need $16,500?
That's the maximum cap. So if we've purchased that much fuel, we get a bunch of money back. That's the maximum that we would have to pay under that contract. So
we have to pay the bill and
then we get.
all the money comes in, then we have to pay them half back. So we need that appropriate so we can pay it.
It's not making sense to me. So we have $16,000 in MVH unrestricted. We use that to buy fuel. So we're using that.
No, when they go out, when we purchase our fuel, they're gonna go out and claim the tax on that. Then they pay us.
Against the federal or state government.
Right, then they give us, then we receive the entire amount that they claim. But we
They'll
have
give
to
us-
pay half
they'll
of
give us
that back
$800
to
and we-
Malcom.
We have to give them 400.
So we need appropriation to send them their half.
And where will that come
That's what
from?
he's trying to get additional. for.
Yeah, where will it come from? I mean, are we
Yeah.
moving it from one line to another, or this is new money?
It's new appropriation, highway appropriation.
So it's an expense for the county on the
It's-
front end, and then it'll be fed back over time as we.
It's for the highway department. It's gas tax money that's going to pay these people to get reimbursement of the fuel taxes that we get paid.
We will not spend this money until we get the money back from the original claim. Then we got to give half to Malcom for their service.
So why can't we just use the money that comes in instead of
It doesn't
appropriating?
work that
It
way.
didn't work that way.
Well,
We can't take $1,000 and then split it and give it back to them. If they give
You
it
have to
back.
have an appropriation to spend it from.
Okay. I just want to make sure, but I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with it. It just didn't make sense to me. It's a little different than some of them.
Yeah, we gotta.
This is
have
the way it
in our-
has to work.
That's pretty much in our budget, so we can spend that, and once that money comes in, then we've got the money in hand.
So it's gonna be, we're gonna be ahead of it.
On the back
Anybody have an
page,
issue with the additional appropriation? Commissioner Bromas?
No, I'm good. It sounds like the way it's supposed to work.
Yeah, so I'll make a motion that we approve the, or that we support the additional appropriation. Because we can't approve it. Get a first and a second. All in favor, please say your name and that you approve. Blessing? Yes?
Costa, aye.
Elder Brahmas, yes.
Okay, thank you.
thank you. Item 10, I contacted Alexander Reese from Norfolk Southern and have him scheduled to speak to us at a commissioners meeting on Monday, December 21st at 9:15 a.m. He's going to present Norfolk Southern position regarding the permanent closure of a couple of proposed locations that and the incentive offered for that closure. Those are the two that we discussed there in the Bird's Eye area. And if we choose to move forward, a public meeting will be required regarding the closures. If the commissioners approve the closure, we'll need to pass a resolution vacating that area. And at that time, Norfolk Southern will, at their expense, remove the asphalt around the rails and put up guardrail and signage at those locations. They'll have to meet MUTCD regulations, and from that point, we will maintain those barricades and signs. So, but that meeting is coming up Monday, March 21st at 9:15 a.m. Any questions on
That
that?
sounds good.
And the next meeting, I'd like to have some information in here so we can talk about the sewage payment. Outside of that, that's all I've got.
I saw the STIP plan. I don't know if you call it the STIP or what that is from the state. What do you guys look at? What is that, state transportation improvement program? Either of you have any comments on that? Looks like they spend quite a bit of money here over the next 5 years doing improvements to, what is it, Old 64? I think there's some work there. Old 6 or what, or was it 164? No, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what they were doing. It said between Brettsville.
State Road 60.
State Road.
That's State
It
Road
wasn't old. It's not old. is it?
Yeah, from Bretsville through St. Anthony, out that way somewhere, I know that's getting repaved, and then the town of Ferdinand is getting repaved, and then Alexander work is getting happening on 231. There's a lot.
So that recent money that they talked about, it's been in the paper, I don't know. The governor said, what, 50 million, $70 million? None of that was in there, was it?
I don't know if it was in that plan. I didn't study the plan.
Doesn't matter.
It's not in there. I can't.
I was gonna say, I didn't see it in there either. Okay. That came out and there's a lot of pages. The other thing, Steve, should we talk about that dirt on the road situation, or should we handle that offline?
We could probably handle that online, but I do recommend we get a letter out to them to address the issue of the material being brought out on the roadway, and recommend that they take some corrective measures to keep it off the road. So,
In short, just for the record, there's a landowner they have large equipment putting dirt on the road. You know, it's coming, they have mud on their property, they're driving the mud on the road. We've had a complaint from a citizen, so I sent it to Mr. Schneier and to the highway department, the other commissioners, so we'll send them a letter asking them to get the debris off the road and keep the road safe condition. I think that's it. For me, unless anybody else has anything for Steve?
thank you.
Thanks, sir. Mr. Schneier, can you give me an email or something on that? Tell me what your thoughts are. on
Yes,
the-
we had a similar
With, yeah.
up north. Kind of working together on that. We can do something similar there.
So.
Actually, we didn't do it. So we have, we never did make a formal motion to approve all of the policy changes at the highway department. So I'll move that we do approve the 9 changes, or that there are really 8 changes that Mr. Burke presented to the board without, with the only change being the one that the board will consider approving the recommendations of the interview board.
I'll second your motion.
Okay, all in favor? Blessinger, aye.
Costa, aye.
Brahmas, I.
Morning, Mr. Wendell.
Morning. Okay, first thing on here is NDOT is requesting signatures for a contract to fix the 175 east for Sandwich Curve beneficial detour. There was damage. We met with NDOT, discussed it with them. It's the same contract. There's some office that needs signatures. But for $10,300. I sent them an invoice. They sent a contract with that. I sent it to Greg. I know you had a couple of comments. Were they major?
No, I took a look at it and it was acceptable.
Okay. So what we're gonna do there is Steve had a vision on chip sealing that road and was re-chip sealing the thing, getting it all patched back up. When they closed 56, the unofficial detour, people would utilize that road and the base under it was, they had major base failures. Since the road was not in the greatest shape in the first place, Steve and I agreed that, hey, NDOT pay their part of it, we'll pay the rest, everybody works together, away we go. NDOT's agreed with it, they're going to front the money for the rock that goes down and fix the base. We'll haul it all in, and then we'll come back to a chip seal later on in the summer. There were agreements to it, and that's the contract, that's the reason for the $10,300. Okay. Kind of everybody working together type thing.
So was there one, which part will be chip seal with the 175?
From 56 south, 300 or 3, whatever.
56 and 600.
600, yeah.
Okay.
That's existing, that's the existing. Everything else is fine, everything else held up really well, besides there were sections in there that just completely fell apart.
Signed in blue.
Sign in blue if you don't mind.
Mayor?
So we have a same contract, what, in the cost of what?
$10,301.
That's for them.
That's what they're gonna give us, it's not to exceed.
It's not costing us.
No, so what what we'll do is I'll have the foreman present, or give me the people that take us themselves, or themselves will keep it, they'll give them to me, so I can scan them and send them to NDOT, that way NDOT's got a copy of what's going on.
What do you mean by tickets?
The rock tickets, that we go to quarries and get, that way they know we don't. If we go over that $10,300, what's on us? If we get that, that's not a problem, but that way it shows that we did put that rock on that.
Makes sense. Mr. Brahms, any issues?
He's muted.
You're muted.
You're muted.
Yes.
He's still muted.
I'm sorry, I was on mute. I said if Steve and Brent are good with that, then let's go ahead with it.
Elmer, would you wish to sign the contract? I can bring it by sometime if you'd like to have.
If it's necessary, I will, yes.
Let's say, I've got two of the three, it's not.
I'm going to need to come in and sign minutes and claims and everything like that as well. I could stop by the garage.
That's fine, we'll do that.
We'll do that this afternoon.
All right, I'll move that we approve contract number R-38709 from the State Road 56 project, the unofficial detour reimbursement contract. Blessinger, aye, or what, I move that we.
Second.
Get a second. All in favor? Blessinger, aye.
Hustler, aye.
Rama's aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. So that takes care of that. ADA plan, I sent you guys an email on Friday, Friday. It's all weekend. For you guys, like I said, it was a rough draft. I know it was rough, but at least gave you guys eyeballs to look at. Nick, I got you extra copies. You guys can look at them so you can. Didn't know if you wanted one or not. Had it, but it's there. I got your email and your notes. I'm gonna look at those and get those adjusted.
So these are, this is the same one that we had the electronic copy of, same thing.
Minus they're in the back of the grievance forms, the resolutions. This is 2013, we did this resolution. We tried about this for the county, it's kind of redundant. I don't know if we need that or not, you know, and Art did this back in 2013, this before it started, so if you want to look good, does it need to be there, does it not need to be there? I can't answer that. So that's what's going on there. You had mentioned the working group, the committee members, that was never established. But I had marked through there things that they had on there that didn't think would need to be on there, so I had the people that I thought would be good, you know, commissioner, council member, Scott is the county maintenance director, myself as an engineer and ADA coordinator, and then I didn't know if you wanted a member from the courthouse, or I thought maybe a park member for it, because as you can tell, a lot of things happen with the park. So we need to probably establish that eventually. It doesn't have to be done right now, but this, it can be done after this is all done through, we can do it later date, but that's something we look at.
I was okay with the list of people you had and maybe just twice a year.
Yeah.
If you would call a meeting.
Yeah.
And we could do it by Zoom or meet for.
I say the meeting is gonna take an hour, but it probably be ready at least once a year to meet.
Or once a year.
Maybe in February, January, before construction season starts, we can set a list of things to do. Not a big deal. I think it's a good idea.
And how much money do we put in that every year?
$5,000.
5.
So it really limits what we can do, but there are some quick topics, the closers and the doors and things like that that can be adjusted, altered. I think for $5,000, we can take care
For $5,000, we can put handrails at all those spots that we got out of our
Yeah.
list.
of. So I was gonna give you the full breakdown, but that's the book sitting next to Steve. I didn't think you guys really wanted that book. Pretty thick. But you know, I'll go through this again. I'll make the adjustments you said. I'll kind of look through it, pretty it up. I will send it to you guys again. You guys could look through it, give me your thumbs up, thumbs down type thing. So we can get this approved and get it to NDOT and let them look at it.
So if any of the other commissioners have comments, please get them to Brent, so we didn't have to redo it the second time.
And then one thing that we will have to do is we'll have to make a complete digital copy. We've always had a book copy, but now NDOT requires it to be digital. And we will have to post it online. And I'll have probably an index type thing. I'll have this and I'll have the index for all the appendices and stuff like that. So either way, it'll be on there, but that was one of the things that we were lacking, is having it online.
I think it's great. I hope we can put a little focus on it every year and spend that money to make those improvements, continuous improvements would be good.
That's all I got, unless you guys got anything for me.
No, sir. Thank you. Mr. Warner, before you sit down, you just want to come on up? We can get started with the health crisis response grant and a position change.
Yeah, Sean Warner, Dubois County Health Department. So with the crisis co-ed grant, last time I come here, asked for a full-time nursing position to fill that grant requirement. So we're having to do a little bit of a pivot. We had a position open for 2 weeks, can't find a nurse to fill that position. That was going to work for that pay and for basically 6 months with a year extension. Having applicants. So what we're gonna try to do now is use our PRN staff that we currently have. On a daily basis to take care of the COVID drive-through. That has slowed down enough where we think we could probably manage that and the school's needs, whatever they may be. So I have to get your guys' permission to make that a PRN position. Next Monday, the 28th, I go to the council to, I guess, redo the budget, right, Sandy? To make that PRN line item instead of full-time line item.
So did the council already approve the pay for that full-time item? I mean,
Yeah.
it's through the grant, but
Yes.
they've approved it.
They've approved the full-time position, but I can't fill it.
I mean, I'm sure. So all we're doing, it's no additional expense to
It will
anybody.
actually
It's just
save,
making it, make
it'll
it
save
work.
actually grant money because it won't be a full-time position. I'll have to pay benefits. And the PRNs are willing to do it, which it actually might help us because if we have a school with two schools with one need in a specific day, we might go bring 2 PRNs and send them to both schools. So it might actually work out better. That's kind of where we're at on that.
So the position change will go from full-time to, what would that be the term for?
Well, there really won't be necessarily a position. It's just going to be that we're going to fulfill the deliverables with our PRN staff that we currently have employed on our payroll. So really, I really don't know what's called it. It won't be a position that will be hired for. It's just going to be.
You're gonna allocate the funds differently.
And the grant allows us to use current staff to fulfill the deliverables. So that's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to do a little bit of a pivot. Instead of hiring someone, we're just going to use the staff that we currently have paid for their hours out of this grant.
Sandy, do you need the language in a certain way to make that happen?
I think he's just trying to tell you that, well, he's changing in
Yeah.
that grant, so.
I just didn't know from a.
We already have PRNs
Yeah.
in our wage classification, so that's not a problem. He's just not
I
gonna.
think
be
I was
able to
just
full-time
basically
RN.
making you aware of what I'm doing rather than.
Right.
I don't know necessarily if I need a approval or I don't know if you have to, ask the position. I don't know what you guys need to do on that part, but.
Did you create a position that you're now eliminating? That would be the only.
Well, we created one, but we never hired for it.
Understand.
They still created it.
So we eliminate the position and then you have our, you don't have any opposition from us to use the funds however we need to meet the need. Does anyone have any opposition to what he's proposing? I do not.
No, I do not.
So we'll go ahead and, so by consensus, you're fine to move forward that way, and then the secondary thing, I'll make a motion to eliminate the full-time co-ed full-time nurse position that was previously created.
I'll second.
All in favor? Blessinger, aye.
Aye.
Thomas, aye.
Motion carries. Anything else, Mr. Warner?
Yeah, then I just have a few items I need to declare either unsalvageable or surplus. So we had 3 computers that we replaced. I would declare those unsalvageable because I think 2 of them already crashed before we got the new laptops. So I would like to declare those 3 computers unsalvageable. And then we have the old signs that we took down years and years ago. We're just trying to cut down on storage because our current situation. I think they're like 4x8, like a vinyl. It's the old health department signs we replaced with the electronic one. We're wanting to either declare them unsalvageable or surplus. I can't imagine any other county office needing them because it says you always got a health department on them.
What is it, just a large piece of plastic that used to be on the?
Yes, between 2 poles, and Scott took them down and put them in our storage, and we're just trying to get as much space as possible. So we're wanting to get rid of those. And then we do have another, we have a jump start. It's like a Shoemaker power pack. It has a jump starter, air compressor, some outlets all in one.
And that's just on my list you sent me, so,
I just sent you the computers. I just come up with these here recently, but
so you're gonna give me a better list for our inventory then, or?
well, we'll change our inventory whenever, if they declare, I mean, these 2 would be, surplus if anybody needed them, but the problem with the jump starter is the battery is completely shot, and I can buy a new pack for almost what a new battery costs, so, if some other county office wants to buy a new battery for it, they're more than welcome to it, but.
What is the purpose of it? What does it do?
So we had it in our vehicle, so if the battery went dead or tire went flat, or we needed to, charge our cell phones if we're out in the middle of nowhere, that pack gave us the ability to do that, but it's probably 10 or 15 years old, so the battery's shot.
And the sign, if more room will become available in your building, eventually, would you want the sign to be used in the back? So I don't even know what it looks like. I mean, it could be in terrible shape.
It's not that great a shape, it's old lettering.
So you won't have any purpose for that.
Mhm.
So I would say that I'm satisfied to declare the computers, the old signs, and the compressor as surplus to be disposed of, and I would ask Mr. Warner to send a picture of the compressor and jumpstart thing out to see if any other office has a use for it. That would be what I would think. Commissioner Hostetter? Commissioner Brown, some thoughts?
I'm good.
Okay, I'll move that we declare those items surplus. All in favor of the motion, say aye. Blessinger, aye. Hostetter, aye.
Rama's aye.
Motion carries. So please just give a complete list to the auditor's office so that your inventory can be modified. Anything else?
That's all I got, unless you have something for me.
I do. This is a question for PCR test. Just, do people get those at the health department, or they go down to the other?
There's absolutely no testing done at health department for the public. It's all at the Roasters Golf Course corner South Clay Street. So we do the PCR and the rapids right now.
Is Ruxer going, is there any talk about that being closing at any time? Is it going to be open indefinitely?
The grant ends June 30th of this year. I've asked the state numerous times to let me know what their plan is, and I haven't had any response. So as you remember last time, the grant funds were up in June of last year. They didn't give us their funding. It was shut down until probably September. So I don't know what their plan is, but it will end June 30th unless we get extra funding.
So we've already got enough money to pay through June?
Yes, unless for whatever reason the county wants to fund the testing site, but I highly doubt that. I don't have the money to do it. So,
We'll have to see what the situation is at that time, which is state. I would think the state would fund it if it was necessary.
yeah, so I'm hoping that they give us a response, because I told them I don't want to have happen what happened last time, because it's very upsetting that people that need to be testing and our site shut down. So.
And with those tests there, they don't process anything there, right? They send it off to the
No,
lab.
they send all of our samples off to a lab. That's why, a lot of the public can't understand why we can't get results in 24 hours like the hospital can or Deaconess can, because they have their own lab in their facility that they'll run their own results. We have to first take the sample and then ship it to the lab. So once it leaves our site, we have absolutely no responsibility over it anymore. So that's why we have a 2-3 day turnaround usually.
And if somebody wants to immediately, you can't go to the hospital? I mean, not immediately, but.
Well, that depends on if the hospital will test you. So they have different criteria that you have to be. Some of them you have to be or you have to be symptomatic. I think Deaconess will test anybody, but then again, they're going to charge your insurance, or they're going to charge you for that test. Our site is always free.
Sure. Great, thank you.
All right. Anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, we have 10 minutes until our next item. We'll do the restroom. I'll give a brief update on the Justice Project. One thing that has come up over the last couple weeks was the Community Corrections has requested turning 4 offices into 5 offices and doing a modification on another part of the building to give our pretrial staff members private offices. The way it's set up currently, there's one office there that has 3 desks in it, that it would have been a shared space. those were suggestions that were brought forth by the Director of Community Corrections. Met with some of the architects to go over those things recently, and they are going to, they've already have a preliminary drawing, which is just, they did an overlay of the current space, and they will, I guess, put something together, contractors to look at and see what kind of expense that would be, to make a determination if we want to move forward or not. They keep saying, it doesn't look like it'll be too much, but that makes me nervous, because anytime there's a change of any kind, it's something. So anyway, that's going on, so we're looking at that. Again, like we said from the beginning of the process, we want to make sure we have the right project. So if this is the right project, it's just unfortunate that we didn't do this, a year ago. But things have changed since then. We have additional staff members and some additional pretrial people working up there that we were unaware of at the time. Also, I'm going to meet with several offices with Mr. Kleesner, Council President Kleesner, this week to go over soft costs. That would happen at EMA, at the jail, and at community corrections. And I'm thinking of inviting the 911 folks as well, because they're all going to be moving, and there will be soft costs included with that, such as furniture, desks, and equipment that they need to outfit their offices. So that's going to be going on. Is it Thursday, I think?
I actually thought it was Monday.
Oh, next Monday? Okay, so sometime in the next week. I didn't remember the exact date. So that's what's going on. Also, some of the council members took a tour last week. I think it was interesting, and we got to see the auditor was there. We got to see the current status of the work. A lot of brick, a lot of block, been put up. It's coming along. Any questions on that from commissioners?
Okay, could I speak briefly about on the Justice Center, the 911 portion?
Yes, please.
I just wanted to update you. I know we've kind of had an approval process, and I'm waiting right now. I reached out to the consultant that we had previously used on the design portion.
Yes.
I had some discussion with him about retaining his services for 911 specific equipment purchasing, and I am awaiting an exhibit B that he will send over that will talk about that work, the costs involved, the amount of hours. I do not have that yet. As soon as I get that, I will get on the agenda.
You basically have a request for professional services out. You're trying to see where that'll come back.
Correct. And we'll see how it goes. But I did reach out to him just within a couple days after the approval of the construction plan, and he hasn't got back with me yet. I would expect in the next week or two I'll have something back, and I'll get on the agenda if we can see where that's going to lead us. But I'm waiting. I think we have a little bit of time, but I don't want to use it all up here right at the beginning. Eat up all of our cushion in regards to the equipment. I'll keep the commissioners and the council informed as it goes along.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Wilson.
Spoke about the community corrections, is that still in the works?
In the works. I was just saying that it's something that we're looking at currently. So on I guess it'd be the west side of the building where the director's office is. There's a director's office. There's 4 offices currently planned south of those, and they're wanting to turn those 4 offices into smaller 5
Within the
offices.
same footprint.
Within the same footprint, yes. So I think the thing that appears to me that it'll cost more will be, they want, if you put a window in every office, then you've got to cut another window in the side of the building. One of these. We'll see how that goes. Let's talk about the bill for Denton, who is doing some work with the county on bankruptcy issues with the coal mine. Sandy said her suggestion was to ask the council for additional appropriation to pay the amount, or we can transfer funds from another line item for the commissioner's budget. So, Mr. Schneer sent us a bill, I believe it wasn't a bill to Mr. Schneer, it was for this Denton attorney.
Correct. I received the invoice, forwarded it out for your guys' information for services rendered this calendar year.
Right, so for the ones last year, we set a cap at $9,000, I believe.
Correct.
That was paid in probably in
It's
January.
not been paid yet.
Oh, that's what they get. It's in process, right? The 9,000, or did you put the whole amount in there?
Well, there's 2 invoices in here,
Right, so we originally invoiced 9,000 and then another 4.
and now we've got the second part. $4,156.50.
But I think my question was, Schneer, was if we could get an estimate from the person to find out, how long, what are we expecting? Because at some point, if it costs us $25,000, at what point is it where we're investing more than we will likely recover?
So I received that request. I will reach out to the folks there, talk to them in conversations. I know Stephen, again, I'm not the bankruptcy expert, but I feel like we had a lot going on at the end of the year and the beginning part of this year to get our claims and everything turned in, which I think is what generated these fees. Ideally, we're on the downhill at this point, but I will reach out to them and see what we can determine or negotiate.
Because if we hear and hear often, we can't spend money we don't have appropriated. We don't have money appropriated to pay the bills, is that correct? It was to me, it was I should have expected it, but I didn't expect it.
And I think, I won't speak out of turn, but there may be a special exception for legal services.
So Sandy, do you have a suggestion on paying this bill?
Well, you have money appropriated in that operating line. There's 10,000 there. So that'll pay some of this. So then I need to move something from your budget or get an additional appropriation for the difference. But then if there's going to be more billing,
I would envision there would be additional.
then I need to know
But again, I
an
don't know.
approximate amount. So we
what that amount
get
is.
that correct amount in there.
If we want to do an additional appropriation, we're too late for this month.
It'll be for March.
So at this point, would you like to pay them the first $9,000 that was billed? And the second invoice once it's
That's
appropriated?
where, if you have another line item that I can transfer funds from, then we cover this.
I suppose if there's a budget for it, then we have a need for it. If we move money from it, then we just have to borrow it. We'll have to ask for
Or
it
when I
somewhere
get
else.
additional, then we can transfer. Yeah.
My suggestion would be to use the $10,000 in our operating fund and to ask for an additional appropriation of probably $7,000, or we'll hear from Mr. Schneer of what that amount.
I'll try to have an answer for us at that, our first meeting. Here, we'll look for it now. First meeting in March.
So Sandy, if you'll put that on the agenda so we can not let that slip. So is Denton going to be, they expect their payment in 30 days, so
I'll discuss it.
we're good for it. Okay, it's 10 o'clock. Or it's 9 o'clock, I mean. And then we're. Yeah. Avian flu. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm gonna hand you guys an Elmer, I'll email it to you. It's just the latest update from Saturday on the avian flu. Sandy, you want to copy this? Really, it's a whole different ballgame than what we put up with in 2016, so we're very grateful for that. On February 9th, the Board of Animal Health contacted my office and confirmed that there was a barn in Dubois County that has the highly pathogenic avian flu, H5N1. It's a different variant, but it does the same thing, kills the birds, and it's a pretty dangerous thing. course, you can just imagine, panic was setting in because the last time this happened in 2016, it went quick. It hit and it multiplied, and we had multiple barns involved. This time it's a lot different, and it's not just affecting Dubois County. Dubois County and Greene County are the two counties in the state of Indiana that are impacted by the avian flu at this point. Dubois County has 2 farms that are impacted with a total amount of birds of 55,473 that have been depopulated. Now, there is ongoing testing. It's happening weekly, and so far the second group of testing has come back negative on all the other barns in the 10-kilometer area, which is about 6.5 miles wide. And it kind of goes down into Spencer County. That's the area that we're looking at in the southeast corner. But so far, the Board of Animal Health has only made a few contacts with our office for some resources. We've utilized 2 fire departments to deliver water to the sites. That was the only 2 fire departments that were involved actually at the farms. But then I did an all-call for all 12 of our fire departments looking for some foam to help assist with the depop. And I mean, everybody took what they had, and but that's the last thing that our county has had to be impacted by at this point. We do get updates anytime something changes. The Board of Animal Health does send us a notice for a conference call, and we'll immediately get on the call. The health department is involved in this as well. They are doing contact. What do you got? Yeah, so just on the ones at the farms that have been impacted, they're staying close touch with the workers there that were around these birds. So that's going well as far as, I mean, I haven't had any problems with any of that, or Sean either. So we're hoping that this is it. We're on our 2nd week now, or 3rd week now of testing. And it's just a day by day. There's no way to prevent avian flu, and that's the hardest part about all of this. You know, everybody wants to know why and how, and there's just no real good explanation. It's migrating birds that come in, and there's no way to stop that from happening. So it is what it is, really. So we are currently just going day by day and keeping our fingers crossed that it'll go as good as it's going now. I will say this, and I do believe that the reason it's going so well this time is as far as resources and our departments being involved is because of everything we learned in 2016. So this proves that if you have a plan in place, it works, and you can get through. The other thing I wanted to let you know is the Dubois County Forage Fairgrounds has been set up as a staging area again. It's not nearly as large of an area. I worked with Greg to make sure everything was kosher with our memorandum of understanding. The 4-H Council has been fabulous. They are working directly with BOA and the USDA to work that contract out and expenses and all of that. So things are going very smooth. So that's really all I have on the avian update.
And and I would try to learn about this, as far as public health, it doesn't necessarily affect humans. And if a bird was, it says that it's not unsafe to eat. So the problem, just so I understand, is the problem just that it will kill your flock if you get that in there, and if it transfers to another barn or another building, it'll kill that flock. So
right, it's just very highly contagious amongst the birds. It doesn't mean that the meat and the eggs are not safe for us to eat. Public health, that's why we have the public health department involved to make sure that the humans don't get it. It is not necessarily, I don't know how you would explain that, Sean. I mean, we didn't have any from 16.
At this moment, they don't believe it's transmissible to humans, but they don't want it to happen and then us not know about it. So that's why we're monitoring these people for 10 days after their last exposure. I think there had been one case in Europe that it was isolated in a person's they did test, but they don't know if they just had the virus in there from being in the barns or if they were actually infected. But it was asymptomatic. So at this moment, we don't believe that it's transmissible to humans.
So, I mean, I'm just very happy about the way things are going this time. I think it's not as chaotic. They know where we are. When they need something, I'm able to help them from my office without having to open up a large emergency operations center. So things are going pretty smooth. Any questions?
I don't believe I have any other questions on that. Mr. Ramos,
I'm sorry. Yeah.
comments or questions?
No, I just, I agree with Tammy that, you know, having been involved with this the last time, we can be very, very thankful it's going the way it is this time. And that's due in large part to our experience the last time and the experience of the industry. The industry is really on top of this. And Tammy's been doing a great job. I appreciate the 4-H council, 4-H and Bob Gress out there. I know he had to move some things around with the CDL class that's going on out there to accommodate the Board of Animal Health. But I think everything certainly compared to the last time, everything is going just wonderful.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Sounds good. All right, next thing, another miscellaneous item. I sent copies of the handbook to the commissioners, to the county council. Do we have any feedback from the commissioners on the handbook as it's been updated? Commissioner Brown?
Yes, I went through and obviously I went through the PTO or the benefits section more than others. There was one, let me try to find it here. Holiday pay. Are we now paying 1.5 times the hourly rate for holiday pay? I'm trying to think where that's at. Is that on page 13 maybe?
Mark, do you know what he's referring to?
I do not know.
I don't remember us changing anything on the holiday
We
pay.
didn't change anything on it, no.
I think it's always been a time and a half on a holiday.
Yeah, I think so.
Have you compared it to the existing version and it's different?
Okay, it's on page 37. It's the file that you sent, Chad. It's on page 37, the last paragraph. Regular full-time employees will receive 1.5 times for hours worked on the holiday.
Is that not how it works?
I thought that was a change from what we had been doing. Maybe I'm wrong on that.
So the existing version, under 4.3 holidays, it says that full-time employees will receive regular pay according to scheduled hours for the holidays as designated by the commissioners and published by the auditor. Part-time employees who are required to work Memorial Day or any of these holidays will receive holiday pay in addition to the regular pay. This doesn't say anything under that holiday line. Well, maybe just, if you wouldn't mind, send that to myself and Sandy and Marky, and we'll review that.
Okay.
But I think that,
Everything, I mean, there were a few other changes in that section on benefits, but most of it looked like it was language probably that Irwin Wagner Steele put in there. It didn't look like it changed what we were doing.
did make some changes to the actual benefits, if I'm thinking the same area he's talking about. For the medical, dental, and vision, all that was listed as pretty vague, we did detail that out a little more, so not sure if that's the same page we're talking about, but I remember making those updates to that section.
So I think to the point that you're bringing up, I'm actually surprised it wasn't in here, because I think that's been the policy, that's how we've been doing it. So we probably just clarified the handbook to match what the policy has been. But yeah, I think if you'd email that out to us, we'll review that for sure.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, okay,
Anything else you would like to bring up on that?
no,
Okay. So I'm gonna give an update on what PSC is calling the Dubois County project. This has to do in part with what we're doing for broadband internet with the agreement. We use our ARC money to help the REC and to help PSC and Orange County Fiber improve internet services throughout the county. And I asked for updates from the folks, and this is from Jim Dobby. I asked if this was public information. He said it can be. So I'll just give you a brief update on what PSC is doing for the community in that regard. Here's their summary from our engineering group. They will have the entire project completed in the fourth quarter of this year. They did detailed engineering for the Dubois County project, and they're conducting the final quality control reviews in early February. The final poll applications will be submitted to the poll owners. That would be Dubois REC, where we made the contribution, and they're doing the make-ready determinations to be finalized. In other words, they're going to make sure that all the polls that they need to run these lines on will be as they need to be, so the work can get done and the broadband can be put out to all the areas. I believe the free press put the map out. It has some little green areas and it shows where this is. I think I don't remember the exact number now. I used to 700 and some homes that this will, or locations that this will add to. They anticipate construction of the mainline fiber routes to begin early to mid second quarter of this year and will conclude in the third quarter. Fiber drops will be placed to homes and businesses that sign up for services, and drops will be constructed following the placement of mainline fiber. They have 16 unique serving areas, and they will turn up services to subscribers on a rolling basis. In other words, as they make their way through this, they will let people sign up. It's not going to be they're going to complete the project and everyone can come on. It's going to be rolling. And those 16 service areas, as I mentioned, there is a map available. I know a free press is published, the Herald may have as well, so that you can see where those areas are. PSC anticipates that the drop placement and service turnup for the initial wave of customer signups may extend into the fourth quarter. And I just made notes from looking at that map that these are areas around Huntingburg, Maltersville, Ireland, Brettsville, Birdseye, Celestine. So people at broadband coming. Any questions on that? And Orange County Fiber is doing the same thing. They're out doing work, getting the poles ready, and we'll be getting those things online soon as well. All right, 9:15. It's a 911 assistant director position change. Mr. Wilson and Snyder here.
I sent an email that I know I got feedback from you, Chad, kind of explaining where we're at. This comes after almost a year of being in this position. I think there are some inconsistencies and some inadequacies that need to be addressed. One of these is the work schedule as it's laid out. The short of it is I'm requesting that the assistant director's position be changed to a 40-hour-a-week position. I need my assistant director in the center. more hours than what she is currently scheduled at the 37 1/3 per week. That of course, I think the appropriate thing to do is to also pay her for those additional hours worked at the hourly rate that she receives. Obviously, that request will come in a salary ordinance request to the county council. And then future budget requests on down the line with the 2023 budget. I think this cleans up a couple of discrepancies about timekeeping, pay, PTO. That assistant director's position has kind of lingered in a no man's land. It wasn't spelled out exactly 100%. It has never been spelled out 100% on how she should be compensated for time off. And I think it was insufficiently documented prior to me being there. I don't think for a second that our assistant director has not worked every hour she's entitled to and every hour that was due to the county. This is just an inadequate record keeping that was occurring prior to me being there. And it goes back a very long way. So I need to move forward. We need to get her in place. And if we're going to make that change, then I want her at the 911 center for 40 hours a week. She is very agreeable to this. If I get my request, then in the end, it would put more money in her pocket annually for the additional hours. Kim is very supportive of the request, and she feels also too that she needs to do that. We have a lot of work to do. We're making a lot of changes. We're going to try and keep moving forward. And I know it's a small ask for, it's not even 3 hours a week, but I need her. We have a lot to do. We're busy.
Your position's 40 hours.
It
as
is.
the director. Hers has been 37 and less than a third or something in that area.
8-hour days.
Yes. And that's the hangup is, she's not on that fluctuating schedule that the rest of the telecommunicators are on. We ask her to work 8 hours a day, and then we want her there 37 1/3 hours a week. So how we've done that has been in a time adjusted fashion, which she has time off out of the center as she accumulates hours. We've done it just in comp time adjustment. It's been a problem for records keeping for the auditor's office and Sandy and her staff. It's a problem for myself and Kim keeping track of her work hours. It was just really it probably should have been done different. Hindsight's always 20/20.
It was set up from the beginning to always earn comp time, which is ridiculous.
Mark, you have any comments?
Yeah, I mean, me and Stuart talked about this earlier when he took over as director about some changes out there, and it was, we actually talked about that. At the time, we weren't ready to make that change, but now, obviously, we are. So I definitely support it 100%. Ultimately, we want to make sure that it is compensated, so for the council there to make that change for the 2.5 hours, whatever it is. But I think that's important. But yeah, I think administratively, it's going to be a whole lot better for all parties. There's a lot of time being spent trying to make all these times come out. And it's,
I wish I had back the amount of hours that I had spent.
Yeah.
And Sandy's staff has spent tracking just the assistant director's position for calendar year 2021.
What does the
is
job
a lot.
description say currently?
it will need to be changed as well as the handbook.
What does it say now?
I'm not sure right off the top of my head.
So anyway, as Stuart mentioned, Mr. Wilson's mentioned, we've had issues before. We're going to start fresh if this is approved by the board, and it'll make a lot more sense and simplify things. I reviewed the request. I think that it's reasonable and in the best interest of the 911 center and the county. I'm happy to take other feedback. Commissioner Hofstadter. I agree with you. Commissioner Bramas. You're muted.
There we go. No, I said, I agree. I had a conversation with Mr. Rhodes last week about this, and I agree. I think I heard him say that he supports this 100% as well. I think it's the right move.
Okay, thank you. So I'd be in favor of modifying the position, modifying the job description to state that the assistant director is a 40-hour position The other thing that's good about this is it's not gonna change PTO. The way it's been working previously was it was already on that kind of schedule, so that will be good. Do we have any feedback from the auditor you'd like to say?
No, I think this is a good adjustment.
Anything from HR again?
Not other than, we will make changes to the handbook and the job description. So, which I can take care of that, but it's something we will do.
Mr. Wilson isn't asking for any additional pay other than, I mean, the hours work, but I mean, it's no, not an increase in the base wage. I'll move that we approve the modification of the job description to make the assistant director of the communications center 40-hour position.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Blessinger, aye.
Foster, aye.
Ramos, aye.
The motion carries. When will this become next pay period or when?
If I'm on the council agenda for the 28th, to make the request for the salary ordinance change. The auditor believes that on the next payroll that is processed, I could go ahead and process it that, and my budget is prepared to absorb that for this budget year. As the email spelled out, there's a little bit of cushion built in on those wages this year. I would be prepared to whatever I think it's the first week of March, is the first payroll that would be affected. I would want to do it immediately. Let's get it done and over with. And we'll move on to the next project.
That sounds fine to me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 8 minutes until the next agenda item. I'm gonna take a minute.
We got stress.
You gotta think. Which way is it?
So.
You just want to have any more. I want it now. So it's
okay, it's
so we're-
okay.
okay, so I just want to make sure that we weren't.
I know, I
didn't want
know.
you going, hey, I need this money, make sure I've already got it, but you sure got it. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
I've had many conversations with them saying about it.
I'm organizing it. Well, when I say this, that's what we did last time.
I just had to find it while I was talking to you.
Well, boy.
You seem like you're not in there.
Monday, Tuesday, you know.
So I told my staff, you still go out anyway, people, and they're looking out the window, so they have it in their head.
It makes me feel better.
Sue us. No, I just want to talk about.
No, we're looking for someone qualified.
Yes, yep.
I have to work on some Friday.
All right, let's call the meeting back to order here. We have another miscellaneous item here. It is a health services agreement between St. Vincent Health, Wellness, further known as Extension, and Dubois County. Mark, do you have anything you want to mention?
Yeah, so on July 18th, we brought the telehealth options out, and it was St. Vincent Ascension was selected for that. They sent a draft of the contract. Mr. Snare looked that over. We made modifications to that contract, and this is the latest and greatest. They just need that with signatures on it, basically making that approval to use them in the contract. So nothing in there alarming, just basically a generic contract like we normally sign. Normal parameters.
Looks like there's 3 spaces for commissioners to sign, so that makes sense. Then at the top it says Dubois County Government. Should I sign there as well, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Well, I'll let you look at it. I still want to have this read down. I assume I would sign here and then the board would sign.
I'd sign down here. Sign here on behalf of the government.
Sounds good. So I don't think we need to make any motion to take any action. We've already approved it. This is just formalizing a previous. Mr. Brahms, whenever you find your time to come in to do those, it will be with.
Yes. Yes, if Sandy would have everything that I need to sign by, I'll be in this afternoon.
I'll have everything ready.
All right, let's have Purdue Extension come up. There's a discussion on rent.
Yes. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you all? Doing well? It's raining out there. Got soaked. This morning, I just wanted to present our lease that we renegotiated with the landlord. I dropped that off with Sandy last week, so hopefully you have a chance to read through it. I got a little background history as far as why we're having to do this now. In 2016, the property, or not 2016, 2006, the property was bought by our current landowner. There was no lease. In 2014, we asked for a formal lease, which turned into a loose leaf piece of paper. And that was not, we didn't,
Sorry.
yeah, I know, no, it's okay, it's laughable because what else can you do? We didn't feel like we were being treated as we should. As tenants, we had no negotiating power, and so that turned into a formalized lease this year. I was able to get a blank copy of the USDA lease that they use in the upstairs floor of our building, and I drew out the phrases and clauses that I thought would pertain to us, and we were able to get a formalized lease signed. Some of the benefits of this lease are that we were able to negotiate shampooing of the carpets, washing of the walls, and new ceiling tiles. Any of them that are broken, we're going to get replaced. So I'm really happy about that. It'll hopefully help the appearance. And we have a very scheduled and regimented cleaning schedule that they have already adopted, and place looks fabulous already in 1 week. I'm really, really happy with where we're going with it. Some other things, we got clarification on, like the snow removal process is contracted out, so I was able to get his name and number so that I can call them if it's not to our satisfaction directly, and I don't have to go to the landlord. And we were able to add an addendum for pest control, and they've already been out and started that contract, so we will have monthly treatments. So, all is well. I'm really happy with where we're at. It was a good discussion with our landlord.
I previously reviewed the handwritten lease and it was very impressive. And when this was sent to me and I reviewed it, I thought, there's no way this isn't the same agreement. But this is wonderful. I've looked it over. I think it matches everything that we would have needed or wanted. Get some discussions on the rent consideration, and I think that's getting taken care of. I think this is a very positive step in the right direction. And I'm happy that the extension office was able to make this happen.
For clarification, I didn't cover that our rent did go up slightly, $230 annually. So I'll be going to the council to ask for that, but we have enough to kind of swing it if we pull out of a different line right now.
My only question, Mr. Schneier, was this lease as a date of January 1st of this year? So I mean, were we operating on the old lease so that we paid them less for January and February, or are we required to pay them the new amount?
It would have been effective, if we have an effective date of January 1st, then yes, they would have a claim to whatever that background would be. And also people like that, let it go.
We negotiated, so he was getting paid the full amount annually. We negotiated in the quarterly payments, so he is expecting the first and second quarter in April.
Okay.
Yes, that was another thing. We were paying the entire amount at one point in time, so that in itself, we lost all negotiating power then, right?
Sure.
You couldn't negotiate of, you know, your rent until you clean the space.
Sure.
So we've changed how we're gonna pay him, and he was okay with that.
Well, I think I would move that we approve signing the lease agreement for 2022 with Mr. Kaufman. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye. Blessinger, aye.
Lester, aye.
He mouthed. I saw it, but I didn't hear it.
Brahma's eye.
Thanks, sir. Anything else you need to report for the extension office?
Nope, I'll be back next month for that.
Sounds great.
Right, thank you.
Thank you. We are still ahead of schedule. Do we have anything from the attorney?
I don't have anything addition to, I'm on the agenda later on.
Anything?
Surprises out in the world.
Anything from the auditor that's not on there? Anything from the other commissioners? Mr. Brahmas, any,
I really don't have anything. I will say that I did attend the groundbreaking yesterday for the park, and so that's now begun, and look forward to that project completion sometime late this summer or early fall.
sounds good. So with an agenda, you don't want to compress everything so much and make people wait,
I know.
but you don't want to.
You can tell me how long things last. It'd be easier.
Is treasurer still coming over at 9:45 as far as I know?
Give things 5 minutes, they last 10 minutes. Give things 10 minutes, they last 3. It's hard to know.
can always talk. The. Maybe probably shocked.
Get that in.
So I believe we talked about this last time, and if not, I have sent an email out about our help cohort. I know I sent some emails out about it. They are requesting that we participate, we being Dubois County and the city of Jasper, as the group that was awarded this, that we attend a community development course that we will need 10 community members to attend. It's a 2.5-day course. I can bring this up last time. I'm still waiting on additional information from Okra on what that means, where it'll be located, and just see how that plays out. And Okra recommended including members of the core team and other interested parties. So when more information comes out on that, we will invite folks and find whatever way it takes to make that happen. But short of the emails I've sent you, I'm not getting any, I don't have a lot of communication with those, or they haven't been keeping me. I don't know, maybe there's just not much to communicate. I don't really feel like I'm too well versed in what's going to be the next few steps. Commissioner Bramas, has there been any progress on the hiring of a community coordinator or development of that position?
Not really at this time. I did have a brief conversation last week with Marky about this, and talked a little bit with Lisa Gelhausen yesterday. And it's kind of our opinion that although we can get started in the planning and the job descriptions and those types of things, that the actual hiring would not take place until certainly not before June, maybe even after that. So that they can move directly into working on the strategic investment plan, the whole health process moving forward. We wouldn't want to hire them today and then not have anything for them to do for the next couple of months.
Mr. Bramas is our second cohort. We have Dubois County, that's with Jasper, Davies County, City of Vincennes. Is there anyone else involved in our cohort, or is that it?
No, I think that's it, but I was under the impression it was Knox County. Is it City of Vincennes?
I looked it up and it said City of Vincennes.
Okay, I'm probably wrong on that. But those three areas, yes. So when they said the meeting would be centrally located, I would assume that would be Davies County.
All right. Now, one thing I did forget earlier, so I do have one more item. I wanted to do this when Tammy Humber was here, but what I would like the consensus from the board to do is join the Indiana Department of Homeland Security to recognize and celebrate EMA Appreciation Week. They're doing that this week from February 20th through 26th. Indiana Governor Eric Holcomb has proclaimed this week as EMA Appreciation Week, honoring those county level emergency managers who work around the clock to protect their communities from disasters. There she is. I was talking about it.
Oh.
So what I was going to bring up to the board, I meant to do it earlier when you were here, was I'd like the county to join the state in recognizing EMA Appreciation Week. And the way that they have it is listed from the state is that it says honoring those county level emergency managers who work around the clock to protect the communities from disaster, that work behind the scenes to mitigate and respond to disasters. These EMAs work with IDHS to share information, train, and exercise emergency management. 2022 marks the third time Governor Holcomb has issued a proclamation to honor emergency managers in Indiana. So if the board is in favor of that, we'll just recognize them. We'll say thank you to Tammy. Put a thank you out on the social media. Just really just take take a moment to say thank you for the work you do year round, and it's nice to have, when we have a snow event, when we have a tornado, when we have any kind of emergency situation, that we have a well-trained, quality individual that we can count on to help with those situations. So thank you for that.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Any other comment from Commissioner Bramos?
No, just kind of follow up on what you said. We appreciate very much, they're very much like a fire department or somebody that you hope you never need them, but you want them to be ready when you do, and they are. They're constantly preparing, constantly training, and so that they're ready when the time calls for it. And so, yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
That's not fun for last week. Wasn't about that.
The state has done a proclamation saying that this week is the end of appreciation. All right, let's just move on to our next item. I don't see. Yes, call her over.
There she is.
No, call her.
You're calling me like the devil. God.
Well.
You're not early, you're late.
I love how everyone is here.
We got-
I have 2 minutes.
Come on up.
You ready for me?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's in the dark in here. It's because we have the- Hi, Elmer. Can you hear me?
He can't see you waving, but he should be able to hear you.
Good morning, Elmer.
Good morning, Kitty.
Good morning. So I'm here today representing the county employees, most of them, requesting that we change the dress code in the handbook so that we are allowed to wear smart casual, not only on Fridays, but every day. So I got a petition, as you can see, went to here, the courthouse health department, and had everyone sign it who wanted to. Got a very good response from everyone. So I'm like, this is what I'm talking about when I say smart casual, not like holy jeans or tank tops, just something dressier, but more casual. So we feel like our clientele would feel more comfortable with us dressed a little more casual, so it's not so intimidating coming into the courthouse. Also, a lot of the big companies are going this way. Kimball, Office, Meyer Distributing, City of Jasper also allows their employees to dress smart casual every day. And there's plenty of statistics that say that when you're more comfortable, you're more productive.
Any comments from Commissioner Bromwich?
Well, I guess this is the first I'm hearing of it, so I'm not real sure where I'm at on it. For example, I'm not even sure I understand what smart casual means. So I would I would be interested in talking more with people about it and exploring it further.
So we'll put it on the next agenda for 5 minutes. It'll give us time between now and then to review what is there, what our existing policy is. And we make a determination then or not. And while we're doing the handbook, if it's time to make a change, we could put it in there. If we don't make a change, then that's fine too. Currently, it appears that it's on page 101 of our handbook.
Now, I did mention to Katie that this would change our jeans for a cause. So we would maybe coming up with other options that we could do, maybe wear something different on this month for
Maybe
breast cancer awareness, or something with a ribbon or pink, or,
or during Super Bowl, we could dress in our team's jersey or whatever.
I'll say I'm on board with this. I think it's a good idea. I think everybody should be comfortable at work. And I think our employees and our department heads are smart enough to, you know, guide their employees if they're wearing something inappropriate.
And also if they have courts, they're not gonna wear jeans to court. And the prosecutor's office, the employees have all signed, the attorneys said, we agree with you, we're on board, we would not. I mean, we have to wear suits because you never know when you're gonna get called into court. So they were all on board.
So I guess that brings up a good point. Why would it be appropriate? Why should court people have to wear more formal clothing than other people? Is their work more professional? Is it a different brand?
I think it's a little more formal. I mean,
I think when you're
Judge
in
Rose will-
court, yeah. Respectful. Yes. But I think if you, like, people coming into my office, I can guarantee you they do not care what I'm wearing. They're just mad they have to pay the taxes, and so they're just gonna do what you need out. I mean, and there's like the health department, for instance, food inspectors should wear jeans because you're on the ground looking under, like it's greasy. I mean, I ruined a lot of khakis bending down, looking under because, and I would probably wear like room jeans too, but I could wear crap, you know, I don't know. And like Sean going out in the field, he should be in jeans because. Well, I know, when we did used to go out in the field, jeans make sense. And the highway guys, you know. They all wear jeans. They wear uniforms.
They're both wearing these.
See. So,
I'll just keep my opinion for next time and review it.
you know your opinion, Chad. We all know your opinion. Elmer, you're a saving grace on this one.
So yeah, I changed my mind. We're ahead of schedule anyway. It's 9:50, so we get 2 minutes. So my opinion is that I think we're too informal the way it is already, and I'll happily review it. And I wasn't, if this is in fact is how all these other office buildings are doing it, maybe I'm happy to be wrong and change my opinion on it. I want to look into it a little more, but generally I prefer that more professionalism in the way we present ourselves to the public instead of less. Commissioner Promise, any comments?
No, I don't think so, not at this time. Let me have some time to look it over and talk to people and try to come to some conclusion on this.
Sounds good. Thank you for bringing it up. Bye-bye. Okay, let's move right into Casa surplus items.
You missed it.
Hello?
Christina.
Yeah, I was gonna say she.
Also, send out pictures, whatever we had that people wanted, and this is the remaining items that nobody still wants, nobody wants.
Okay, so I was kind of listening to them and you at the same time. They had a list.
They sent out a list, they had some desks and some other things other that people did take, but this is the remaining items that nobody wanted when they sent it out to the masses.
All the list of for those in attendance, 3 desk chairs and 4 guest chairs. So are they, you know, Sandy, do you remember from the photographs, are they salvageable, they reusable by someone else, like if you took them somewhere?
I doubt it, because nobody wanted them now. But I don't know, I don't.
I mean, or if St. Vincent's could sell them to somebody for a couple bucks, so I can use them. I'd rather do that than throwing them in the trash. So, Commissioner Brown, do you have any problem with declaring these items surplus?
I do not.
Okay, I'll move that we declare the 3 desk chairs and 4 guest chairs as surplus items to be disposed of in the best possible manner by Dina.
I'll tell you.
All in favor of the motion, say aye. Blessinger, aye.
Hostler, aye.
Brahma side.
Motion carries. Mr. Rose, are you going to talk about the jailer classification change, or are we gonna have someone coming in to do that?
I think Sandy, you were going.
I just had it,
Right, but
we had it as a COMA 3, and a jailer really should be a CPOL.
everything law enforcement is C-pole.
CPOL 1.
You don't have, I went over there. Grab a sheet.
I just have CPOL, I didn't put the number behind it. Because we have it classified in the wrong place.
What is it now? Brent and Steve, do you guys,
COMA
does
3,
Sandy know how to break this stuff down? I hate for you to be sitting around, if you've got something else you can be doing.
I can break it down.
I'll get you the flash.
I know, I probably should have told you this a half hour ago. If you wanna go back to work, but it's good with us. You know, I think
They're the models for the smart casual.
Yeah.
Smart is loosely there.
Let's just go with that.
Steve, you don't have to take it.
Laid back as good as it can get.
Thank you, gentlemen. We'll wait for Mr. Rhodes to come back with an update on the classification. So what does CPOL stand for? Do you have any idea?
It's the police officer. He probably knows way better than me. Elmer probably knows better than I do. COMA is computer operator maintenance, something with like sitting at a desk or something.
Technical.
He's asking what CPOL means. It's more the police officer.
Yeah, it's gonna be like the patron, chief jailer, assistant chief jailer, supervisor, courthouse security.
So those folks are on CPOL what?
C-pole 3 is the
What we,
lowest.
3 is the lowest, 1 is the. But we need to make a determination if we're okay with changing the classification to a CPOL 1, correct? Or a part-time.
that part-time jailer right now, we put it in everything place where COMA 3 is, but we want to change it to CPOL 3.
Is this the same one that the part-time shows?
Yes, it's the same exact thing, it's just that position really is under the wrong, that's right.
So it doesn't change anything, it'll still be the same line.
Change anything except,
Yeah, you don't need to put yours on.
I'm in favor of the, of moving the wage classification to a CPOL 1.
C-pole 3. C-pole 3.
CPOL 3, I apologize.
I would agree.
Do we know what is the wage scale for the CPOL 1?
1 or 3.
Well, what are we changing it to?
We want to change it to CPOL 3, that part-time jailer that we hired last,
Okay, CPOL 3, okay.
it was at COMA 3, and it really doesn't belong under COMA.
But the salary ranges mirror the C-pole 3 and the COMA 3
$17.49,
mirror each other.
$22.96.
Okay, okay,
Same thing as the COMA 3, it's just.
Besides, we're getting in the law enforcement classification versus the more of the, I guess you'd call office, city office.
yes, yes. No, I understand. CPOL is for, specifically for police,
Correct,
police and law enforcement.
correct.
And CPOL 3 is the lowest classification that we have, I believe, isn't it?
Yes. See.
Okay, I will move that we change the wage classification to a CPOL 3.
I'll second.
Any other discussion on the issue? Hearing none, all in favor? Blessinger, aye.
Hostler, aye.
Promise I.
Motion carries. All right, Mr. Schneider, let's move into conflict of interest forms.
Yes, that's the one we're going to discuss here this morning. Fielded a few calls, but for today's purposes, we have a uniform conflict of interest disclosure statement filled out by the 4D prosecutor, William L. Shaneyfeld, disclosing his potential nature of the conflict and the lease agreement that is entered into with the county. This form has been signed off on by the elected official, which is Handbook Quinn as the Dubois County prosecutor. We would ask then, or it's being asked then that the
board give consideration to this and approve it, or that it's been presented in a public meeting, which would then allow the entering into an execution of the lease agreement 2022. The re-entry of the lease agreement. Following the statute.
So we're already in the lease.
Or yes.
And this would just be that we are now recognizing that there is a conflict and we agree to continue on with the lease anyway.
Right. I don't think that having the disclosure in writing, we were all aware of the situation.
Owners of the real property, 716 Clay Street, which is leased to the county for operation, child support office, goes on the rent is on there. So you will fill out here where it says the effective date that it's submitted, that'll be today.
That'll be today and the date that the action of the contract for purchase, which I also brought along with me as well.
Would we sign the affirmation of the
That
public
is-
servant, or would that be for Anthony?
That'll be for Mr. Shanefield.
Disclosure was submitted to the governmental entity and accepted by the governmental entity in public meeting of the government.
So basically just a motion to accept the disclosure.
Anybody have a issue or any further discussion on this? I'll move that we recognize the receipt of the uniform conflict of interest disclosure statement from Mr. Shanefeld.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Blessinger, aye.
Oster, aye.
Promise I.
Motion carries.
And then as a follow-up to that would be the lease agreement in terms of which we negotiated at the end of last year, which would then it would be asked for approval again today, signature again today, and we'll forward on to Mr. Shanefeld and Ms. Shanefeld.
Purpose being that this has now been executed
The contract.
after the conflict has been recognized.
That is correct.
I have no issue with that. I'll move that we approve the lease agreement with Mr. Shanefeld.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Blessinger, aye.
Oster, aye.
Promise I.
Motion carries. And that's another signature for you, Mr. Brown. Anything else? Mr. Chair?
No,
On that issue?
no, this one.
Then he has to file it. I think he has to put it on the gateway.
It doesn't even go there, it's whether that's the auditor or whatever.
Again, we're 10 minutes ahead of schedule.
$500 for the vision and dental.
Which means what?
I don't know, it's we got in.
You said you called it something?
5,500 the files that they have to do. So it kind of shows you what we paid and what his commission or whatever.
So this is the one item in addition to what we directly pay that they profit on. The-
Correct, and I'm a little disappointed, staying up, so I don't set commissions, which is fine. It's probably called something else, but, I just call it what it is. You're making a little money off of these, contracts with these vendors.
Are they making $26,000?
Well, one column's out and the other column.
Yeah, one column is, I think,
We pay the
11,000.
entire fee and then part of it's what he received.
Yes. So, and I'm sure, they're probably getting something off the VSP contract as well, so.
I remember when they were in here, and I specifically.
Yeah, I know you specifically asked.
But I do think he disclosed that they're getting paid from us and from one of these, or maybe both, because these are paid directly from the employees. The employee is paying, right? I mean, the county isn't.
We're collecting from the employees,
Correct,
paying them, and then they're in turn paying him.
so it's coming out of the employees' pocket, so to speak.
The employees that choose to take dental or vision may be paying for part of the broker's fee.
Correct. Yeah, the county's not paying into that.
Right. Okay, I'll bring up something Commissioner Brown and Hostetter that I brought up, I think, 3 years ago, and I've left it on my stuff to consider list, so what the heck, might as well talk about it, so we don't sit here awkwardly for the next 8 minutes. So I thought it was a good idea back when we first took office that it might be a nice idea to develop or consider developing a service award of some sort for community members to recognize their efforts and the good that they do for the community. At the time that we talked about it initially, I mentioned one of the longtime 911 advisory board members that is also a fireman and does a lot of good for the community. But I thought people like that, it would be nice for the county to recognize them. I think at that time, Commissioner Brahmas, you mentioned possibly those people that serve on conservancy districts and some of those other boards that they put in time, they give effort, and they don't personally profit in any way other than being good community members. And I know historically there's been things like the mayor would give a key to the city or would say, hey, we really want to recognize the good work and the good deeds that certain people in the community are doing. And so I've always thought that would be a nice idea to recognize some people. And I don't know, just thought, bring it up for discussion again today. It would be, I would look at it as being more of just an honor. We may give them one of the similar plaque to what we give for the employees that have different lengths of employment here, that we recognize and thank them every 5, 10, 20 years, whatever those different time periods are. I thought it might be a nice thing to consider or to do, and it wouldn't be of a lot of expense to the county. We do have this year we're spending it on bankruptcy attorneys, but we do have actually we do have a promotion line item that we can do things like this. Just would like to hear your feedback on that if it's something that is interesting to anyone.
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I mean, anytime we can recognize somebody for the service that they are providing or giving to the county is a good idea. Obviously, it needs to be done the right way. We would need to develop some type of a guideline as to what the selection process would be and what would qualify, what the cost would be involved in all of this, but just the overall concept is a good idea.
Commissioner Hostetter?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea. I assume you do it annually. And then I agree to count that number, some kind of concept of what type of person, we're looking for, and create some kind of guidelines to kind of help get through the weeds.
Maybe the first year give 3 awards because we've never done it before. And I'm sure we can come up with 3 community members or 3 organizations that have done wonderful things, and then have it written in such a way that every year after that, we have 1 award that we give, and people can fill out an application or a nomination form of some sort that we can look at and consider. Maybe just something that I'll put a little more thought into, maybe start some preliminary ideas. Present them to the board later. Any problem with that?
No.
It's kind of like with Tammy Humber being in here earlier. It's one thing, we're a government, so we can't say, hey, great job, we're gonna throw you a party this week for doing such a great job. A lot of times all we can do is a public recognition and thank yous. This would be something similar to that. All right, it's about 10 after. So we can start the discussion on the court interpreter. And do we know, is anybody other than probation coming to?
I know both judges have court, so I don't know.
I just put it on because you said turn off for a few minutes, so that's what I did. I just stuck it where I could.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Rhodes has a position description.
Yeah, so I'm just gonna speak real briefly to it. And like I said, Jenny's here as well to represent it as well. So position would be for a translator, administrative specialist position. The Department of Commissioners, Human Resources, the work schedule would be 8 to 4, Monday through Friday. Job category would be a COMOC, be a full-time non-exempt position. I'm not going to go over every fine detail in the job description, but it's basically a summary of what the courts, probation, everybody's discussed the 2 previous times we were here, as well as adding those admin and administrative duties to basically close out the full-time position. Because the translator portion of it wouldn't be necessarily full-time, so what's the person going to do the other portion of their hours, and that's where the admin comes in that role. And it would also include various establishment inspections. That's for strong residents, some language barriers that person would go out and help them. In my office, they'd be doing different clerical admin items, as well as I was thinking about the different documents that's used in the offices. We could have this person as a project, and be kind of special projects in there, make those forms in the Spanish language. So we would have an English version plus Spanish.
Have you shared this with any of the other departments, or just the first time you're sharing it?
The courts. So everybody that presented in here, as well as Tammy and Sean, that was included in the ultimate discussion, and Amy Kippenbrock, they've all seen this.
And have they provided you feedback of any kind?
Yes, yeah, we worked the last 2 weeks to come up with that, so.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you
So
started
that
with
is
something,
the-
and gave it to them, they gave you feedback, and this is
Correct,
where you
that's the
are.
final version.
Okay. And one of the asks that we've had previously was scheduling. Is there been any, is that included in here?
That is not included in there. That's gonna be a tough one, I think. Ultimately, if I'm gonna be responsible for this person, I'm gonna wanna know, where they're at most times, because if you guys ask, hey, where's this person at? I wanna be able to be accountable for them. So, I know Jenny's mentioned on Mondays and Wednesdays, I think, since it's some core days for her, so we pretty well know that. I was even thinking about Friday, the health department, and you guys can go and schedule your stuff out on Fridays, but there's gonna be a lot of you know, phone's gonna ring that they need this person here, or, you know,
They will be busy.
yeah, they're gonna be kind of going every which way, so, it's really important for all those department heads to kind of communicate schedules with me, and, we would just have to put up some scheduling aspects up there, so we know where this person's at, the return of comp time or anything like that, we can control that, so.
My initial thought is I'd like to see what that schedule looks like before we approve something. At least a filler, something that says this is what we project. That way, everyone can sign off on it instead of us creating it and then fight over days or an hours or something. I think that was the only other ask that I had with this. Further, the other thing that's going through my stomach a little bit is, I think this is important, but over the last couple, I don't know, over the last month, talking with members of the county council, the auditor, and at some point, we have to start saying no to something, because everybody comes with great ideas, and we think they're great ideas too, and we say yes, and we're spending more than, we're at a deficit this year on what, with our lit money, for example. We're spending a lot more lit money than we got coming in, and if that continues, eventually you're broke. So I think I just want to proceed cautiously with everything that we do, and this is no different.
I don't know if anybody, I know the two judges talked about funding, I don't know if that was shared with anybody. I know it wasn't with me, it was as to how much budget they could, I know that question was brought up. I don't know, if got the same. Anybody
I
on
just
that?
had with Judge Burkamp about it for a little bit, but it's hard to come up with a number because they're still using that fund for other things they need in court. So I never got a hard
Hard
number.
number to be able to transfer.
So we're gonna need some kind of a hard number, or the council can't just say, we approve in whatever amount, we have to have a hard number, I think.
So if they decrease their budget this year, then we have to know where this person's gonna go next year, and budget for it. Under his department, or, because right now it would be under the two courts for the remainder of this year.
It is a unique position because it's going to, ultimately, they'll be probably reporting to the courts more than, you know, even myself, but I'm just kind of the central hub, so, and I don't mind to take that responsibility, but.
You know, I would look at it as you would be, from my perspective, you would be the one in charge, and you would be able to make the final determination on those things. You take requests from the other offices, because you're a, we'll call it disinterested third party. You want what's best for the county, and they would want what's best for their individual office, which makes sense too. But we have to have a buck stops here, someone, and that would probably have to be you, because you're here every day. And so I'd like to hear from the other commissioners. I think, again, I'm always concerned of putting another person on the payroll. I do think this is important. We've all discussed last time how important we think it is. The only things, again, I mentioned was I would like to have a final number from the judges of what they can take out of those couple line items to help pay for this, so that the council has a fair number to look at and know what they're going to be, what their true ask is. So I'd like a sample schedule and clarification on the pay situation. Then I think I would be prepared to take a vote on it. Commissioner Hofstadter?
I clearly see the importance of the position. I agree with you on the budgetary part of it. We can't just keep adding positions. We never seem to take any away. And it works there. But, you know, we have to be able to pay for it. As far as the schedule goes, I see that being challenging. I think you can probably get together some kind of a generic, this is what most weeks would look like kind of schedule. I don't foresee being able to say, spend these hours in this office and those hours in that office and break it all down. But I think it would be helpful for us to kind of look at how this person's going to break out, and therefore not have, you know, department heads button heads over who gets that person's time.
And I'm with you. I think it's important. I don't like kicking the can down the road. If we're going to do it, I'd like to get it in. If there's a need, get it here so they can start using it. But the nature of being a county commissioner is we meet every 2 weeks. And we're not supposed to be making decisions outside of meetings, so this is the way we've got to do it. So I want to apologize to the staff that is not having these services when we think they're important, but that's just kind of the nature of what we're doing, or how, how the government works. Mr. Browns?
Yeah, I think I expressed the last time we discussed this, that I think this is an important position. It serves the people, it serves an underserved portion of the population, much like public defenders or something like that. You know, they come in sometimes at a disadvantage, and this person can help not only them, but our employees through that difficult time. My concern, I think, was who this person would answer to, and in listening to the discussion this morning, I think you've got that figured out. So my understanding is then that this person would answer yes to the commissioners, but through the HR. So HR would be responsible for this person. And do I understand that the home base, the office, if you will be in the HR department as well?
Correct.
Okay.
Majority of the time, there's been discussion of 1 to 2 days stationed them at the health department, so that's a still possibility.
Okay, then I think it's an important position, and I think I mean, you're right, we can't add just for the sake of adding, but when something is very important, we need to figure out how to do that.
Okay, thank you. The other thing, do we think we want to, do we need to do anything other than encourage the entities to reach out for the grant dollars that are available? I mean, I don't know how to say it, but if we just say that we're going to pay for it, then we'll just pay for it. If we say, I guess I don't know how to proceed. What I would like to do is have the folks that will be using it apply for the grant dollars, especially the court, because there's dollars available in grants if we apply for them. I hope they would do that. I don't know how to force them to do that, other than I guess the council in the future could say, we agreed to pay for it for the first year, you should have gotten grant money by now, and that's going to be pretty hard.
Once you create it and budget, then you can't do a grant because then you'd be supplanting it.
They have to be certified to get the grant. So that's kind of the quandary when we're in this part-time person just continually contracting. Because certification takes a lot to get. So there has to be some kind of carrot out there, which would be the county full-time position to get that person to agree to do that certification.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we do have in that job description is, you know, ultimately, we're not probably won't find somebody that is court interpreted certified. So that's the goal, get somebody in here and then work toward earning that certification while in that position. So that's one thing, I guess, for takeaways, we'll try to get with both courts and see if they've got any budgeted money they can transfer to a line item, and then a sample schedule, what a sample work week would look like for that employee. We put that together. Bring that back.
How do we need to do anything on the financial end, or do we want to leave that to the council to tell them, hey, here's what we're looking at from a funding mechanism. We'll fund it this year until the person becomes certified, and we expect that grants will at least be applied for. I don't know how we enforce that.
Can't do that, that'd be supplanting. You already have a position.
New position, but different job duties, use a grant.
If you have a position already in place, you
Yes.
can't ask for a grant to take that place that's supplanted.
I can't apply for a grant this year, pay for next year's salary.
Not if you think it's county funds, right?
Already created position. Unless Greg knows some other way around supplanting.
There's COVID money out there that you guys might be able to try to find too. I don't know if you could, how long it'll last. But just have another grant opportunity come through me this weekend. I'm into it. It's a wide range of public health issues that you might be able to look into that. But like I send the information to you, Mark. I got some grants right now. I'm trying to juggle one another one.
What I'm thinking of is, it reminds me of the public defender thing. You can start a public defender's office. Once you have one, then you can start applying for state funds to help reimburse you or pay.
Reimbursement to the public defender council.
Right, you can end up getting some of that money brought back, and I was assuming that there was some similar mechanism for this position.
Most difficult part is if you can't find funding off from one source, then you're gonna be paying this person out of 3 or 4 different funds, and that gets really messy. I know, but I'm saying if you can find a COVID grant or something for the next few years or something that, then if that grant goes away, then you could apply for other grants or use county money, but you can't use county money and then replace it with grant funds. Because you're already funding it out of county money and the state or feds don't like supplying that money. I mean, COVID money might be a start, but I haven't read the new grant that just came out. It might be able to justify it in there under one of the categories.
It sounds like we'd like to see some sort of sample schedule, some kind of clarification on how the position will be paid, at least for the first year, and then maybe for the second going forward. I think Commissioner Braun has said that he thinks it's important, but I think your concern was kind of taken care of this morning, that you know who they'll report to. Is there any other concerns or things that we want done before we make action on this?
I don't think so, no.
Commissioner Costa? Or what are you two thinking? Do you want to take action on this today, or do you want to have those couple things come back? I mean, those are two things that I want, but if the two of you want to move on it sooner, you can do that without me.
Well, if there's any clarification that can be brought to it in any way, I'd be interested in hearing that. But at some point, we do need to move forward with it. And, I'd probably be ready to move forward with it this morning.
I can speak to the schedule. Anything that we create at this point is probably gonna be, I don't wanna say fiction, but it's gonna be created, because this has to be a fluid position. It's driven by arrest, it's driven by court, it's driven by people who show up from the Department of Correction at my office and maybe an interpreter. So I can guess as to what the schedule we need would look like, but it's gonna be just created at this point. And I guess Sean can guess maybe what he thinks, or we can just come up with one but not stick to it. So it's a fluid position, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Very flexible.
Yeah,
they're gonna have to be.
And I agree with that, but my concern is I was trying to look out for the interest of each of the parties, because if we have the probation, health, Markey, and the judges all having some sway over where this person goes, who's going to be left out and who's going to have the most power out of those four? And is that going to leave somebody short? I thought if we at least had a sample schedule at the beginning, we can say, well, when we all kind of agreed to this, probation was going to get them 4 hours a week. And now you're saying we can't have them at all. Or there's probation will get them for 8 hours or whatever that is. I just thought it would put everyone on record saying that at least this is a starting plan. I know it's subject to change. It's like our agendas or other things that we do. But I would hate for somebody with more power to take away from and give another. And I thought that was one way to look at it.
To your point, I would say it might be better for each department head to figure out how many hours they think they can utilize in a week, and not actually make a schedule like there's a person to be here on this day. Like let's say I need 4 hours a week, and I put my name in for 4 hours a week, and she might need 8. Judge courts might need 15. I mean, sure. Rather than saying they're going to be a health firm on this day and there on this day, because that's never going to happen. I don't know when people are coming in for birth certificates. I don't know when they're going to come in for death certificates. I don't know when they're going to come in for immunizations. I can schedule my food inspections. So things like that would be able to be scheduled, but I can't determine when somebody's going to walk in on a vaccine that we can't communicate with.
One of my thoughts on your schedule, and I don't know that it would work, but was maybe every Wednesday, this person's at the health department. And you have handouts that you hand out if somebody comes in on a Monday that tells them in Spanish that this person's available on a Wednesday, that, you can help them the best you can, but Wednesday you have an interpreter. That might work for you, whereas somebody in the courts or even the sheriff's department, they pull somebody over and they can't communicate. It's not going to be a perfect kind of scenario, but some of you guys probably have a better idea of, yeah, I can make Wednesdays work every week or whatever, whereas others of you might have to deal with just when they come in.
And the public won't know what that schedule is at first, but over time,
They'll give you something.
We can do that in post-conviction, we can do that in probation, where I can schedule post-conviction, people have already been sentenced, like on Wednesdays from 4 to 6, and just have them all come in that time. So something Allen County does is very similar. They have a county point person, my vision to be Markey, who coordinates all the scheduling, the tracking of hours, and the payment of this person. So in Allen County, they contact a person and say, hey, can I have interpreter on the same time, or are they available? And if not, then they look at other dates and times. So I kind of envision Markey doing something similar and deploying through Markey.
again, even if it's a rough agreement, I think it would potentially save a future headache of letting everyone get the benefit of the new employee.
Yeah, I know, like Jenny, she mentioned Mondays and Wednesdays being core days for her, so when we talked about having the health department, so I was like, I know Mondays and Wednesdays, we want this person stationed here, because they're obviously gonna be needed to go across the courthouse, so, stuff like that.
I think even once we get scheduled, there's gonna be some give take. Some people are gonna learn that I don't need them as much as I thought I might have in the beginning, and others are gonna say, wow, I need them a lot. So.
We already set court hearing just last week for one of my people, when I have a little caseload, just because we have an interpreter. We all had agreement, we're ready to go. He took off work, his wife took off work to drive, and we all get to court, and there's an interpreter available, so we had to reset, which means prosecutor has to come back, his defense attorney has to come back. And right now with Mariana, that's been our office translating for whatever it is, so.
Marky, if you think you could coordinate it, I'd be happy to move forward today.
I think just the communication is gonna be key. And like Jenny said, as long as somebody picks up that phone and says, hey, I know I got this going on Tuesday or Wednesday, pencil in, that communication piece is gonna be the key. And if it's one of them deals where, like you said, they're already taking it in another office, it's just gonna have to be, well, there you go. We got some other 2 or 3 hours down the road, so.
Big situation, don't worry about that. But of how the funds will come from different judges' funds, let the council worry about
They're
that.
gonna create, you gotta give it a wage classification, so we know where to.
I think we put them on 3 probably.
Then the co-mod, it doesn't say. And the 3 would be
That
that
same
entry
wage
level.
scale, like,
Well, I think my preference is to wait 2 weeks and have a sample schedule and have the case situation figured out. But if the 2 of you move on it, then that's all it takes, 2 people. If one of you wants to make the motion, we'll hear it. Or we can wait.
I'm not opposed to waiting. I don't know. Elmer, I don't know if you're interested in going ahead and moving forward.
I'm sorry.
Are you interested in going ahead and moving forward with the position?
If waiting 2 weeks brings better, more clarification, I'm okay with that. I don't want to push it out any longer than that. If there was a motion to move it forward this morning, I would probably be in supportive of that. I think there's not going to be any perfect explanation of how this person operates every single day. And I'm perfectly comfortable with leaving that up to the people involved, namely the HR department and beyond. And as far as the financing is concerned, I understand that if we establish that there is a need and we send it on to the council, I understand that there may be concerns there as to how it is funded. And that's a discussion that they will have. But if waiting 2 weeks brings better clarification for some of us, then I'm okay with that.
And that being said too, I haven't even had, I don't know that any of us had time to even read the job description, so maybe another benefit of waiting. And if we approve it today or we approve it in 2 weeks, it doesn't change anything, so it can't be funded at this next council meeting. Am I correct? So it doesn't really change anything. The position would be created on paper, but it wouldn't have any way to fund it for another month. Correct?
In that case, I'm okay with waiting as well.
All right, we'll do it for 10 minutes again on the next agenda, please, if you don't mind.
We
Better
start at
do-
8, so they can be here. Can you give them? 8 or 8:10, something like that.
Thanks for coming over. Appreciate it. And Marky, thanks for your work on it as well, and whoever else was helping you with it. Okay, we'll go on to let's do Buck Shoals. Those folks are here. I believe we'll come back to the annual financial report. Is that okay with you? Good morning.
Morning, everyone. Corey Bettag with Cash Wagner Associates. Here to propose the Buck Shoals subdivision. It's a major subdivision with some unique features. We finished the survey. Sandy, I did send you a link. I don't know. Handlers in town. You can download it through there so you can see it too.
For this, I forgot about this part of it. So what do we have that's different here from the last time we talked?
Some restrictive covenants. Of course, we have the language about the right of way. Mr. Snare chimed in with a few lines to, I think, further help protect the county from any costs. It is a 30-foot fixed right of way with the intent for the county not to maintain it. Restrictive covenant number 15 explains that.
So we're the approximately blank percent per lot owner, that's what's gonna go there.
That's more of a floating percentage based on the sale of the lots.
Yes.
If 3 lots were to sell, those 3 would share it at that percentage.
Yes. For lack of better terms, the homeowners association as well. Three-person committee.
Approaching it, yeah.
Mr. Schneider, with restrictive covenants, how can those be modified in the future? If they say, we don't want to do number 3 or number 7 anymore, then that plat would have to come before us again for an updated approval. So Brent, what's your thoughts on the subdivision proposal?
It's fine, it's acceptable. Considering the constraints they're put in, what they've got, they've met what they could.
Reading number 21 here, it does say that it could be amended by the owners of the subdivision. Ask that, that at, county commissioners.
Looking for lot number 1.
Well, Mr. Chair, how does that generally work? Because we're approving it as is.
As is.
If they make, but if they make changes on their own as a committee, then somehow have to record it, wouldn't it?
Those changes would have to be recorded, yes.
So they wouldn't need our consent the way it's written now.
No. If you want, I mean.
So the odd thing about that though is if we're approving this based on they're taking care of the road, and then next week after we approve it, they change it to say that they're not taking care of the road anymore.
Well, we haven't signed off to take care of the road.
Not that I think these things will happen, but I'm just looking at worst case scenarios. So would it be your suggestion that we would make a request modification for number 21 or that we not?
Have that out on the record.
It's actually in the first paragraph.
Oh, I stopped the box.
The first paragraph at the top of the restrictive covenants.
That the subject matter is about to become effective until it's recorded in Dubois County. Let's want to add some language to that, but that was our intent to make sure that they want to change that.
That's just recording it though. It doesn't have those changes approved by this board. And some of those changes would have to be approved by this board, whether or not you want that to be a restriction on it.
Got the changes from $2 to $3. That's a whole other story. If you guys want that, everyone can glad to put it in.
I suppose I don't want to make it any more difficult than it needs to be. I don't think that the commissioners need to be involved. If you change your rules on walls, hedges, trees, and shrubs, that doesn't make us any different. We really have a limited number of these covenants that would be of value to us.
Correct.
So I would hate to make 21 a general thing that says this committee makes a change, and then has to be approved by us, when it's something we don't need to be involved with. But I do want to protect the public interest for things that are with us.
But if you just plug in number 15 and state that any change in this provision must be approved by the county. Commission.
I agree with on number 15 that we could add it in there, or put it in number 21 that any changes regarding number 15 need to come back here. Again, 15, I feel like we've drafted it in a way that is basically it's no expense to us. And I think if that were to change by their vote, it wouldn't matter because it didn't have our approval. You know, it's fine. A board, not a board, you're a board of 3. Their board of 3 that now the county's taking care of it doesn't make us take care of it. Without our acceptance of it.
But we've had other situations in the past where there was an agreement where people down a certain lane would maintain something. New people own it, and they say they don't maintain it anymore, they complain to us. Like up in the Fairgrounds, next to Brockman property. Deer trail. See the deer trail? Is that, you know what I'm talking about, where they didn't, the people didn't own the road, Mr. Brockman did. And it wasn't being maintained, so then they complained to us, but it wasn't really our responsibility to maintain that.
Yeah, but then we turn around and accept the road and then that's all I got turned over. Is that what you're talking about?
I don't think we've ever accepted that.
No, we're talking about the one.
Oh, the,
backside.
okay, that's the Fairgrounds, okay,
The-
A little
west
15-foot wide lane.
yeah, okay.
So that's the only.
But we've never accepted maintenance, they came to talk to us, we've never accepted maintenance of it or done it with. Came in and requested it, it's not, that's where if they would come in and request it, then that'd be up to the board to decide if they want to do it or not.
I'll say in their previous agreement, did it run with the land with all future buyers, or was it just an agreement with the current buyer?
I'm fine to move forward with this. If, with the surveyor giving comments on the layout, anything like this, health department, any issues other than what we've talked about before?
No, I didn't read what to say about it.
It's, I'll show you, Sean, it's right here. So 9 is part of it. 7 is what we used previously, that they must conform with all current codes, ordinances, and regulations of Dubois County.
8 is
Eight
the
is
septic
septic
system.
system.
8 is additional. We did not do that on the previous one.
Do you get a properly working septic system on these lots? Could you even get a properly working septic system on these
Well,
lots?
there's some researchers, incinerator systems on the market now, a couple of handlers are looking at that, circumvent having to try to put down septic systems. Almost cost prohibitive, yet wouldn't meet the guidelines, so they're looking at that option.
They can't have running water and incinerate toilets. Right, it's supposed to be running water, so that would be the only thing that concern me, is that each one of us have a septic system. I don't know which one, maybe which one's down. So any water that goes into your facility and out of the facility out of a pipe is considered wastewater. You can't burn the water, you don't burn the waste. So then that water has to go into the approved septic
So they
system,
would need a septic system also.
according to the way this is written.
The only thing that would be legal would be a holding tank, is that correct?
Only if you guys approve that.
There is some topography higher up. I know there's a bench up in the woods on the southern lots that a conventional system probably could be installed.
Is that community land or each owner have?
No, not each lot, but the B lots without the river frontage, the water frontage, those would be accessible for sure.
I mean, the only thing you guys could do is treat this like Iowa lot, like the Beaver Lake, and allow holding tanks. They would have to get permits because all these are probably in the floodplain.
Yeah.
So therefore, we would approve any septic system.
4 or 5 of that.
But you're gonna make an exception for those 4 or 5 that, I mean, they can put a septic system in, but the other ones they can't. What are you guys gonna do about it? I mean, at the current moment, we don't go around looking for these things, but if that says they must have an approved septic system, then I don't know which ones we were dealt with. Is it gonna be?
It's not approved, so septic. We realize it can't be.
So the only thing that would be approved for the ones that are in floodplain would be a holding tank. Now, I think some of them probably have things, but I don't know. They were probably most of them built before 1978, so we have to this on.
Most of them do have septic. I think it's some water doesn't run. Everybody wants to apply for this, it's not how they feel about it.
Yeah, I totally understand. I mean, it's just kind of a difficult situation because it's in the floodplain.
Long story short, most of these won't
They can't
have a
apply-
legal septic system.
They can't apply with the rule unless you give them permission to use a holding tank as means of sewage disposal as a special exemption, because that's what we do at Beaver Lake and Iowa Lake, because there's no property that the person owns that can put a septic system in that's in first on their property, and also it has to be 200 feet from the lake because it's a backup drinking water supply. So we allow holding tanks as means of sewage disposal in this county because that's special exemption was granted by the commission. State code does not allow it as means of sewage disposal for anything longer than 2 years unless sewers are coming.
when it says no septic service discharge will be allowed, what is that?
I mean, an outlet from a septic tank to the river or ditch or surface.
So you're saying, so Mr. Seaver, you're saying that your intention is to have tanks?
Say it again.
Your intention for these lots is to have tanks, not to have any, because a traditional septic system would hold it until it gets to a certain level, and then it disperses out fingers. But this says no discharge.
Right.
So is that your intention?
Our intention is to put in a system that doesn't discharge into the water, so that the neighbor doesn't have to put up a septic running in. As I said, 9/10 of these cabins already have a septic system. Several of them got tested months ago. And our intention is for them, the other two, to put in a system that does work, that doesn't discharge in the creeks to the river. I realize it doesn't meet the code. This is no different than River's Edge subdivision you approved last year. It's the same scenario.
Are those even, Sean, are those even called septic systems, or are they called something different? If they're not discharging?
I have no idea what's in the ground. I can't call something a septic system unless I have a permit on it. You see what I'm saying?
But I'm just saying, if you knew that there was an item there where I use running water, it goes in the sink, it goes into something,
Yeah.
but it doesn't discharge.
If it doesn't discharge and it's going into fingers that they put in before the rule, then that would be something that, like any other holder's home, there's no grandfather clause. If something would be brought up, somebody can complain on tomorrow and have to fix it. But what is the fix is the problem. What are you gonna approve there? Because if they say they got a septic system and they put in laterals that there's no permit for, and it starts backing up or something happens, then what is your guys' solution for it? Is it
But are
gonna-
those fingers not considered discharge? That's what I'm.
No, if they're not discharging to the river, it's not considered discharge.
Oh, okay.
But I
That's
don't
where
see
my-
how it's, it probably functions the majority of the year. When the river comes up and floods, it's gonna sit, stagnant there, could back up into their house, and you could do a number of things if they don't have a discharge. Most people, before the rule was established, did not put a septic system or a finger system in after the tank, because there was nothing that said they had to. They were gonna spend $5,000 putting in laterals, and they could just drain it to the ditch, because there was no rule saying they needed to. So anything prior to 1978, I have no documentation on what's there. Therefore, it's not a legal septic system according to us, because we don't have a permit. Doesn't mean we don't look for it and tell them that they can't do it, but if these things get brought up when they're sold, they get brought up when they're transferred, ownership, anything like that. I just need to know what the solution for this is going forward, because if, I go down there and buy a cabin and it says I must have a approved septic system, it doesn't have anything or have an outlet, what are we gonna make these 2 or 3 people put in? So I will not, we won't approve a septic system in the floodplain. And if these 2 that need it are in the floodplain, then that's gonna be something you guys are gonna have to decide what you're looking to approve there.
Yes, there are options for easements in the future if need be.
Yeah, you can
From
get,
adjoining
you
landowners.
can get easements, you can pump it up to a site that's out of the floodplain if you wanna try to look at easements.
But that's really possible, right?
Well, I mean, it depends on how bad they want it.
Most of these lots, we gave them almost an acre or larger to give them on that upper ridge, the ability to do that at some point. And we have to do that. So we have tried to do everything we can to make sure either they can have a system that's working now or in the future have the ability to do that.
Sean, in the current way it's written up here, let's say that lot 9A complains on lot 10, it doesn't matter which lot, just for hypothetically, they say that their discharge is something that's bugging me for some reason, and I want to complain about them. What does the health department do? That they get a complaint, you probably are supposed to go examine and investigate, and then you go out to 10A and you say, yep, it's not legal. Then will you condemn it? You make the water, you get the water shut off to the location, or what do you do?
We would send them a letter, basically telling them that they had so many days to get this resolved. And if it's not resolved, then it could come to condemning the property until they did resolve it, or until they got some type of approval for you guys to put in a holding tank to stop the discharge, if they don't have means of proper sewage disposal.
I know some of these feel like things that we talked about when Buck Schultz was here previously. I don't remember how we resolved them or how I became comfortable with them or not, but I guess a person is just taking a risk whenever they're buying one of these properties because of you're getting the benefit of the location, but you're getting the negatives of the location as well.
We have cabins on most of these already.
Yeah, they are, they're all established. I think there's 3 lots that we could get up for sale, and 2 of the 3 would be on the floodplain. 3 of them, actually, all 3 of them. Usually lots.
Have you did soil violations on them?
No, we didn't. We didn't go that far.
So we wouldn't know then if it would be set approved or not on that.
For sure. We put other septic fields in that same roof line. My personal home is in that, and that's what we're now, or fields into that same area.
Commissioner Brahmas, give us some wisdom.
I don't know that I have any wisdom, Chad. Not being in the room, not seeing the documents that you're looking at. I'm trying to keep up with the discussion. I'm hearing most of it. I think, yes.
She said she's going to forward it to you.
Okay. My concern would be I would want all of the concerns of our agencies, the engineer, the health department, the surveyor, I would want all of their concerns addressed in some way. I don't know what, I don't know how we do that.
I just emailed it to you. I thought you said-
Okay. But even at that, I don't know that I'm going to be able to, I'm going to have to defer to those of you in the room on this one as much as I can.
So I know on the previous River's Edge that we did just down the river from here, the restrictive covenant that mattered was all building codes, all buildings must comply with codes, ordinance, and regulations of Dubois County.
What number is that on here?
It's part of number 7.
Or from the get-go, they're not already. They're already in violation of their own rule. Because the building code, the ordinances and regulations of Dubois County require a working functional septic system, and not none of them. A number of them wouldn't.
They may.
Well, as of now, we have 0 on record, right? As being functional, or very few.
And you have built before or after 1970. Those might have permits.
But even if they had a permit,
They have a commitment to pull to see what was actually installed there, but
the rules today,
I wasn't around back then, so I mean, they may have just. A lot have changed since we first started. They put them in back then and without soil evaluations, they just hoped they work because that's the best technology they have. Nowadays, it's way more strict. You have to have soil report, you know, follow the proper steps and then have it installed and inspected. But the only thing that, you know, you can do is if they have the ability to put a septic system in, they can prove to us with a soil evaluation and if it meets all the codes, then we would allow them. If they can't meet that requirement, then you can give them those specific lots. Once they prove to us they have no option for sewage disposal, then you can grant them the holding tank.
so a person, again, I think I brought this up for the previous one. Person, if they want to take the calculated risk and say, I'm going to take this, buy this lot, put it in, buy the existing property, build a new property, an improvement on that property, improvement on the property, and they're taking a risk. The neighbor or future board of commissioners or board of health could say, we're going to start investigating areas that we think aren't compliant, and a person's taking the risk that those investigations could come in the future, or a complaint from a neighbor may cause them headaches when their system is, because even your covenant is saying they must comply with these. And if we were to go up there today and say, lot 6, you're not complying, then that person would have that to deal with.
They would have to comply.
They already have that risk, even though they don't own the land. But in long term, they all realize they run that risk.
Right. Right now, you're yeah, you're transferring it to the individual, or this will transfer to individuals, and we would deal with the individuals. I guess the only thing I would like change is probably that language that Mr. Schneider talked about with either putting it in 15 or 20, 15 for the roadway, 15 or 21, stating that a committee can change the other covenants, but can't change the one where it has to be a legal complying building, and it can't change the one with the roads. If those two things were changed, I think I can move forward with approval. That'd be my part on it. Commissioner Brownless? Or would you like some more time to review?
Again, I'm going to have to rely on those of you in the room to know how to move forward on this. Is it, have the concerns of the health department been addressed? As far as septics are concerned, have the concerns of the road been addressed?
Regarding the roads,
Add that verbiage, that's fine, that's extra backbone for us, that's fine, I have no issue with that.
so for the roads, yes, Commissioner, that has been maintained, and I'll wait for Mr. Warner to give a comment. Yes.
I don't believe so.
Give an additional,
Just, it's only echoing what Mr. Warner's talked about on number 8. Adding in the end of number 8, that when if it's determined that a working septic system is unavailable, they would need to come before this board to prepare something. So,
how about this? I'd like Sean for you to give them the language that you think would be good as far as if it needs to say approved system or whatever that language needs to be, so that we have a little more clarification there.
Really great area because when you buy a property, you do what's kind of you're buying basically it's buyer beware. There's no ordinance that you guys have to say that property has to be inspected. The only way that we would know that they had an issue is if we had a complaint, or you would then enforce us and start inspecting the sale of properties, which I doubt that's going to happen. Unless something's written in here that, if it's transferred, it has to be brought up to code. And now
So it does say that, it does say they have to meet the guidelines of the subdivision committee to make sure the system is working before they sell it. We're trying.
yeah, but your definition of working, my definition of
No,
working are two different things.
No, I get that.
If you flush it and it goes away, that's considered working to you probably, but it's not to me.
But we're trying to do everything we can and try to meet.
I understand that, so I really don't know.
But in the future, you're correct. A future board of commissioners could say, we think it's important to have a building inspector or a building whatever person. And I've had somebody recently even bring that to me. And that person, just like the city of Jasper, when you transfer your home from one person to another, they're going to do a lateral sewer inspection to make sure that it's not crushed. And if it is, then that's generally on the seller to rectify or the next person can't get utilities. I mean, that could happen in the future. Again, that's another risk that the lot owner would be taking on.
That's with any lot, that's a house off the county road though too, right? That's with any lot, a house off the
Absolutely.
county road or
Yeah,
not
right.
specific to the subdivision.
No, yeah, not specific to this. I'm just trying to protect future.
I don't
what's
know
kind of
what your
residents.
subdivision rule exactly says, but before you create a subdivision, don't you have to approve sewage disposal? That's in there.
I think so.
So if you're making this a subdivision, you're not meeting your subdivision code either.
But it's a little different animal because everything's already here.
Yeah, I know,
It's not an open field and we're cutting lots in.
They're not a no road
So he said he's got potentially 2 lots he could sell,
They are out of the. I don't.
but they haven't been sold and tested, so therefore you couldn't grant them subdivision approval according to your own subdivision ordinance.
Could you still do a mound system on those lots, or some makes it over 6% slope?
There's a lot of flat areas.
I don't know what you got solar language, that's what the subdivision says, you have to have solar report to prove that sewage disposal is available before you can approve the subdivision too. I'm not trying to make it difficult, I'm just trying to point out all the things that you guys are up against. I mean, I don't have a problem with putting some wordage in there that if a system needs to be, updated or anything is brought to the front about a septic system, they either have to get permission from the health department to meet the current code. If it doesn't meet the current code, then they have to come to you for a solution.
Tank be a food solution.
It's not the way tank.
Holding tank.
Who
Talked
changed that?
several of them about that, and they said, we want to do that. That was
I mean, it's on your island, it's fine to us, they have to approve because the state code doesn't allow it in Texas. It's sewage disposal unless it's a special exception.
Or is the same situation as Rivers Edge, type of was in there?
Yes, the vacant lots, that's, I guess we're assuming that there will be a structure built on those. They could be, they could be just a vacant lot, not necessarily running water, I think, to it.
So the 2 vacant lots, if a person follows the rules, if they were going to build something, they would need to contact the health department.
They would have to give a notice of assessment.
And they would have to have soil evaluation done. If you're gonna build a structure with running water, they can go out there and put a pole barn, just put it in and whatever, as long as it doesn't have running water, I don't care.
Right.
But as soon as they put a drop of water and run it out of pipe, it's wastewater.
So we would kind of be formalizing the lots of things that are already there, things that are already happening. Again, like you said, it's similar to the last approval we gave.
Right.
These, again, the people on those 2 lots will be taking a risk, but they won't be approved.
I mean, they're all taking risks.
One of them is going through the process already. One of them is interested in new life, going through the process already to have soil testing. So that's something we told them to do. So it's not like it's Greek to them.
I'm already have the other one approved and then change the rules on these. I mean, that's kind of a difficult situation.
Yeah.
here.
Well, let's, Commissioner Brown, do you have a thought? My initial thought here is that we ask for the change to protect us on the roadways. And if we want to wait 2 weeks to approve the rest of this, we can. If we need further time to review it, or we can tell them today what we require. And I don't know what the best path forward is. This one's not clear to me. Commissioner Hoskins, what would you like to see?
The change of verbiage that you were talking about, I totally understand. As far as sewage is concerned, the properties are already approved. They're already there. If Mr. Siebert remains the owner of it, nothing changes. Or if we allow them to be sold individually, it's the same. I don't see anything there changing. I agree, it would be better if we could get approved septic on there and everything, but how many years have these properties been there?
80.
Yeah. I mean, short of telling them you can't sell them and they all need to come down, I don't see any reason not to just go ahead and approve it. And yeah, these people need to figure out a way to deal with that sewage in a proper manner. And they need to realize the risk that if at some point somebody comes along and files a formal complaint and they get inspected, they may lose their right to have water at that lot.
Mr. Brown, last comment? Nothing?
No, I don't. Again, I'm feeling a little bit at a loss here, but again, I agree with Nick. Without zone, what I think Nick said, without zoning, it puts us in a difficult situation. If this were subdivision anywhere else, would that change anything?
I think it would change it if it's new, if it's breaking fresh ground. think we'd look at it differently.
There's nothing we can do to prevent Mr. Seaver from selling the entire property to one individual. And police as they are, am I right? So, I mean, I just.
And they're still taking the same risk, which is
There's not a
what we did
big-
every one of them.
There's not a big distinction here. They're already there.
I think I can go along with it as long as, you know, in addition to maybe 15, we have 7, 8, 15 all listed, that the committee can't change those.
Add
three.
that to number 21.
Correct. So
That
that's,
makes sense for
that these covenants shall be binding on all persons unless terminated by the owners of the subdivision or the committee. Then those lines be exempted from without approval from the board of commissioners. Any other comment from anybody? Anybody in attendance?
As long as they don't, two vacant lots have to be accepted through before they build one. Because it's no different than if anybody goes out and buys a house with a failed septic, they're assuming that responsibility.
Yeah, right. So that would be number 7, 8, and 15.
7, 8, and 15.
We'll have language added, number 21, so the proposed covenant requires approval of the Dubois County Commissioners. So, Mr. Schneider, would you recommend that we wait till we see that in black and white, or should we make an approval contingent on those changes?
I think we can go ahead and approve on those changes, and Corey will present that to Brent, myself, and Sean. If you looking forward to that. It's just adding it to number 21.
Correct, I can
Which
do
is
that.
not a signature page, but
Not for the commission.
Then is there going to be a signature page that's not included here?
Yours will be on the first page. However, I have Mylar and paper copies to all print off yet, so.
So at this time, I'll make a motion that we approve the Buckshall subdivision with the modification to the restrictive covenants, that line number 21 be modified to state that any changes to restrictive covenants 7, 8, or 15 require approval of the Dubois County Board of Commissioners.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion? Say aye. Blessinger, aye.
Hostetter, aye.
Brahma's aye.
Motion carries. Thank you for working through that with us, and then we will sign after you get that modification on it.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Payroll. Sir, what are you here for? Well, I didn't get it on the agenda. There was an opportunity that came up yesterday. I wanted to know about it. Okay. We'll have you on it. Yeah, I don't know that this other stuff will take too long, so yeah, we'll put you on again, we'll get you on as rapidly as we can. Okay.
Say you gotta go. No, that's our second. I hope it she doesn't pass me out the rain. It is.
What's going on?
spend enough time here today. Unless you need me for anything else.
I don't think so.
Okay. Anything on the agenda that,
No,
on my plate? Do I need to do anything or just wait to send it out? Oh, I really.
multiple lots. So there is, it's like you have to look at the one. Two major changes with those lines. That, you know. But I don't know. how you-
For one, let's say I cut that road. Certainly, just run straight out on there. Yeah, so that whole different.
Really, the only thing that changes is it's not called the subdivision, it's called whatever it's called now, and the same thing happens.
I mean, just the property, say, lot owner or HEA, say, I'm like, and all this other guys. That way. All these other guys can stay. I should go take it.
Again, I'm glad we brought up multiple times, you're taking the risk. It's the way when, like, somebody else said it, somebody bought my house. My septic system was approved, bought it without testing that, taking the risk. Because it could have been crushed, it could have been.
It's there.
That's right. All right, let's get back here to do this. 2021 annual financial report, the auditor.
I put in all your, Elmer, you'll get it when you get your mail. I put it in the mail, this is what's gonna go into the paper. And then if you wanna see the total report, it's right here. Normally you guys sign off on it. I have not submitted it yet, so that's why it says not submitted. It's due by the end of the week.
So would you like us to give approval of this?
Normally you guys just sign off on saying you've seen it. I just have to present it. No, I'm submitting it before then.
And is this a copy that we can look at for this week? This one back.
That's my only copy at the moment.
How about this? We will, I'll move that we,
I don't even need a motion. I just have to present.
I think you wanted to sign it,
Oh, you just initial. You guys initial that you've seen it.
just so you have record that we've
That
had,
you've seen
you've had a chance to look at it. And if any of us want to take a look at the full version, it can be made available.
Right, so here's basically the breakdown. So this will be published in the paper. Oh, yeah.
So one question I did have on it, I looked at the lit numbers and it showed that we had a net gain in the lit fund.
Which one?
The
Some of them are clearing.
2 point something.
Some of them are clearing and then we have to distribute them out to the other units.
So there's our GL.
Yes. Should all be similar to them.
This one.
That's edit.
Right, so that one's started 14.2, it's 14.8 in the middle, so, right at the end, so it looks, just on paper, we have more money in here than at the beginning, but this money is accounted for.
Yeah, a lot of that one's accounted for. Just hasn't been spent yet.
So that's why we have a balance. It's approved to be spent, just hasn't been spent yet.
Correct.
Got it. Any
And
other?
that's the county.
Anything else you'd like to point out about that? Anything stands out to you?
Yeah. There are a few funds negative, but those are reimbursable grants that we haven't been reimbursed yet.
I have no other questions on that. Anybody else?
No,
Okay, thank you. We have an ARPA revenue loss discussion that was scheduled for 10:45. We can either, I guess, let's hear what the sheriff has to say. He's come in to ask for some time, and we can do that, and we'll get into that ARPA discussion. So this, as you know, is the vehicle rotation, our vehicle. I'm going to request to.
I'll give it to him.
Okay. So I was gonna ask this, but something came up yesterday where we've been looking, just recently about trading in a 2016 Ford F-150, which is our narcotics officer's vehicle. And there was another vehicle, it is a 2019 F-150 that one of the local dealerships has. It's a used vehicle. We kind of looked at it yesterday. The trade-in that we're gonna get for the 2016 with over 100, like right at 110,000 miles on it versus this one here at 20,000 miles. They're giving us this 3,000 less than we paid for the 2016 as a trade-in. So it's one of those where I think it's a great opportunity to get almost 70,000 less miles for a little bit newer truck. For about $20,000. So I thought that was a great value. So I wanted to ask permission about the trade-in of the 2016 to buy a 2019. And then while I was doing it, I was just going to say the other two vehicles that we were wanting to trade this year was a 2013 Taurus and a 16 Explorer, which are both fully marked police cars. And I know that we talked about this prior about taking those two fully marked ones. There are pool vehicles now. However, our pool vehicles are not fully equipped with like body cams or anything like that. So we have one of our officers that's driving one of those now. He doesn't have access to any in-car camera system or anything like that because his car is wrecked and he's in this one. So my goal was to have 4 unmarked Durangos. And what I mean by unmarked is basically the sheriff star on the side of the car. It still had the light bar and all that, but it allows my jail officers to drive them vehicles with not being fully marked, so people don't know that's a police car because the headlight or the lights on it are just clear lights. They're not blue and red like they used to be. So there's a lot of, I'm okay with the jail officer driving that. They don't have to stop. They don't have to respond to incidents that they see. They can just call it in and keep moving if they have an inmate, and it's less on them to worry about if they're on the interstate or traveling or whatever. Nobody knows that it's a police car. They can just keep going instead of having to stop. Or if it's a marked car, you kind of want to stop and take care of the scene. So that will allow us to have 4 unmarked as pool vehicles, which are fully equipped with body cameras and all that, so that if a car does go down, they can, deputy, all we can do is stripe it and it's their car then. They can move their in-car camera over. It's just a matter of putting their name on it and be fully marked, just like their car they're driving right now. But before it gets marked, our jail officers and our staff can use it also. So on the left-hand column, it says 2023, should that be 2022? If you're wanting to do it immediately? Yeah, it would be. Okay, no, my bad. Yeah, it would be sometime this year. So it could be 23, depending on when we can get the vehicles in. Sure. The F-150 is available. The F-150 is available, and that's what got me here this morning, because it is a used car and it is available. For what purpose are jail officers using the vehicles? Transports, out of county transports. We have actually 3 transport officers that make. I mean, we got 2 of them out today that are transporting. I think one of them went to, I don't even know, Scott County, and so they're not always using the box going around. No, we don't usually take the van outside of the county. It's just unless we take it to prison, RDC, if we have numerous people. But if it's something simple, by one inmate down in Vandenberg, he's going to take the Durango just to
get down there.
Okay.
Smoother ride.
I guess in my mind, when you're doing transport, you have 4 people in the back, and most of the time it'd be 1.
Them transports, yes. Like courthouse,
Courthouse, got a number of them, but
yeah,
if you're going
like
to
we
Vanderbilt
took
County.
7 or 8 this morning up there, and that's what, we wanted that for here. To allow one person to take them up, and they can meet our courthouse security with them versus having 2 or 3 deputies transport them, and they're all tied up in court, so.
So to get the deal that you're talking about on the F-150, are you required by the Durangos at the same time? I mean, is it a 3?
No.
Okay.
No, that's just something that I was gonna do this year was these 3 vehicles. But we didn't have any to replace that, so I didn't make it put on the agenda to do it yet. But then it came open yesterday where he called and said he had to use one in there. And then I thought, well, I don't want to put this off a whole lot longer and then it'd be sold because they're not easy to come by, as you know.
And the new one is a what year?
The 2 new Durangos that I'm requesting would either be the 22s or 23s. I'm not sure.
No, this 4, sorry.
The new one or the one that we're wanting to purchase is a
So you're
2019.
You're wanting to get a Durango instead of a used Ford?
No.
I misunderstood.
Yes.
We're gonna trade the Ford F-150 into it for another same vehicle. It's
What
just
year?
19.
Okay, that's what I
Yeah,
missed.
that was
16 for.
a 16 for a 19.
What's the net cost?
The 16, when we purchased it,
After you trade in the 16 for the 19, what do you pay over and above?
23,000.
What is the Taurus?
20,000.
So the Taurus, the 2013 is an old sheriff's vehicle that's been moved to a pool vehicle.
Yeah. And so is the 2016. The Explorer.
We were talking at the beginning of the meeting about, we always hire employees, we never take anything away, and we buy things, never take anything away. Is there a need for having 4 unmarked pool vehicles? Is there, I mean, is that something that we're always going to have, or is there a?
There's always, I mean, yes. There can be times where we have all 4 of them sitting there and they're not being used. I get that right. But right now we have 2 of them that are being on transports today. And 1 of them that is being utilized by a deputy that wrecked his car. So we don't have any that's available. So if somebody else needs one or if something happens, we don't have another one. And I know, I get that it's always that way. But if you look down on that sheet, like in 20, well, next year, 24, I kind of just threw this out there as far as vehicles where I think we may be trading in those years. And a lot of them is there's 4. And that's why I wanted 4 pool vehicles, is because when we make that decision to trade them, all I have to do is them unmarked ones that we have is strike them and they're ready to go. We can move them into everyday usage. And then as the new one comes in, we can put that new one into our pool vehicle. So the pool vehicles, instead of having old used vehicles in our pool system, they would be more or less newer vehicles that are allowed to be used for transports. And then when we trade vehicles, they would be a semi-new vehicle that would be moved into. Does that make sense at all? I know it's hard for me to explain, but.
It's not super clear to me. What I'm getting at is, please, I guess all I'm gonna ask, I guess I'll try to ask this of other departments as well. As you go through these things, if it's not a complete necessity, please consider being as conservative as possible, one thing, but if this is.
Right, and that's what I told Commissioner Ramos, is I don't think we ever look at just getting rid of vehicles, but you also want to look at, I don't want to get into a situation where next year we have to buy 5 or 6 or 7 of them. You know, if we can get a good trade-in value for them and they're not overly costing us a lot of money, we're still, I think we're better off in the long run. I mean,
Well,
like,
I appreciate you bringing up a rotation, and I think that meets kind of what the commissioner was looking at, so we kind of know what's coming.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gaining vehicles,
Right, I know.
you know.
So you said this one that you're wanting to trade has 110,000, isn't that kind of like a low mileage for vehicles nowadays?
On your vehicle.
I'm just
Yeah,
asking, because I
yeah,
don't.
honestly, and I don't mean to be mean about that, but on your vehicle, yes. But this is a police vehicle that it's not, not necessarily considered low mileage.
Just asking.
Yeah.
I
And I
have
mean-
no idea.
Everything about running an hour.
There is on there. Yeah.
Because I have a feeling that their 110,000 miles probably ran twice as many hours as what my 110,000.
Yeah, they don't get turned off when they go to an accident scene. They don't get turned off when they go to a call. You know, them cars sit there and idle.
That's a good question. We don't deal with it every day, so we don't
Right.
think it.
Because I would think anybody in the public would go, that's nothing.
That's true. That is true.
You know, with this used one, do you have money in your budget for it?
No.
Okay, good. My question was like, one of my thoughts was, he's gonna come back here in a year or two and request this new truck instead of a used one. And instead of $23,000 difference, it's gonna be like 40.
You mean if we don't upgrade it now, we pay for a new vehicle in a couple of years?
Right. Unless he just happens to find another used one.
Mhm.
So generally, when you make a vehicle purchase, you don't have a budgeted item.
I do. I did up until this year.
Okay, you took it out, so the council will now.
Yeah.
Approve them. Okay. It wasn't worth it. Okay. Commissioner Brahmas, thoughts, questions for the sheriff?
No, again, I'm struggling to try to keep up with the conversation, but do I understand we're trading a 2016 for a 2019? Is that your request this morning?
Well, that amongst the other two also sometime this year, but the F-150 is the one that prompted me to come in a little earlier than I was planning on it, because that vehicle is available now.
Okay, and why are we trading the 2016? Is there an issue with the 2016?
It's had some minor issues on it, no, but it's just got almost 110,000 miles on it, and where the trade-in value is, we've driven it for 4 years for 110,000 miles for $3,000. So it's a pretty good deal to trade with a lot less miles on a different truck.
Okay. I don't know that I have any other questions at this time.
So historically, they would say you have a line item of $250,000 to buy what you need to sort of trade and sell them. We've asked that you do more of this.
Right.
And so with this, today what you're doing is requesting, will the commissioners consent to these purchases? Then you go to the council and they would say, we have the funds to do it. We don't have the funds to do it. So
Right.
right now you're looking at the
That's how
process.
I envision it, yes.
Okay. I don't have any other questions or any other thoughts. I can support the sheriff moving forward with things myself. If any other discussion to be had, otherwise I can make a motion. Okay, I'll move that we give the consent to the sheriff to move this issue forward to the county council for their consideration of the trade-in of the 2016 Ford F-150 for a 2019 Ford F-150 that's available currently, and to replace a couple older vehicles for Dodge Durangos. That would be how I would look.
I'll second the motion.
Okay. And for further, any other discussion on this? I guess my other piece of discussion would be, so these Durangos, are you buying them through the states?
They will be through the state.
Whatever they're
And that was one thing I was gonna ask you on the motion is, if they're not available and we do need to replace something, then we just put, I guess,
Don't specify.
don't specify the Durango, yeah.
So it would be something else that was within.
That would be
state
the
bid.
state bid, yeah. I mean, we're gonna stay with the state bid. I don't foresee that changing, but I don't want to be locked into it. Durango if there's none available.
What are the other options?
It would be the truck or the Charger or the Ram truck, not Ram. Chrysler has the state bid.
I mean, we need to have vehicles on the road and I can change that to I'll modify my motion to making them 2 vehicles that are on the state bid list. So that'll be my motion and I'll need a second. I'll second. Is there any other discussion? All in favor of the motion, say aye. Blessinger, aye.
Hostetter, aye.
Brahmas, aye.
Motion carries. Anything
All right,
else, Sheriff?
that's it.
All right, thank
Yep,
you.
thank you.
All right, let's talk about the,
On state, what is it, state bid? State,
yes,
state bid list.
so they bid out vehicles and then that way it saves all 90 counties from having to negotiate pricing.
I think I know what that is. I'm just trying to get this motion. to proceed to purchase vehicles on the state bid list. This one has-
Okay, let's talk about the ARPA revenue loss discussion. Commissioner Brahms, I guess you probably don't have it. You didn't pick one of these up, did you? The new, it's called revised B 2/18/2022 meeting.
I don't believe so. Would that have been an email?
No,
It's in his. Yeah, let me see if I can.
so I'll get started with the discussion here, and I think
Let me go from Mike's email and see if I can send it to him.
Sandy will try to send you a copy, but in short, here's what we've got. We had a meeting last week on this topic with the committee members. The sheriff wasn't there and the clerk's office wasn't there, but the sheriff did say he favored this action, and I didn't get a response from the clerk's office on their thoughts. So long story short, these are some suggested modifications that the committee has approved. And we'll just kind of go through them I'll wait till you have a chance to get it emailed to you so you can at least follow along.
Okay.
I guess what I'll do though, we'll start with the things that haven't changed. The number 1 item on the list, for example. The Okra grant that we partnered with SERS for those hotspots, for the Wi-Fi usage and those, we have $31,600 that we talked about before. Approving, we have approved it, and that amount will remain in the ARPA fund.
Okay, I've got it. Yep.
So that first one will remain in the ARPA fund.
Right.
Number 2, professional services to Baker Tilly. We have that amount down as $20,000 for, we discussed what we've spent with them already and what our intention, or the way we think that this will play out going forward. So far, they've done a lot of work with us for that revenue loss. And the amount that we've already paid them, we paid them back in November, was about $6,400. So we thought we probably won't need their services. So that $20,000 would probably cover any future need we would have with them. And at any time with any of these, if you have questions or comments, please let them be known. The next one, we've added a line item that's called revenue loss. And if we spend or grant all of the other funds on here, we will have an amount of $448,077 that will be considered revenue loss. When the ARPA committee got together originally, the number 1 priority was revenue loss. Then we did the calculations that met the rule at the time. And they said we had no revenue loss. Then 3 months later, or whatever it is, they changed the rules, and now we can use any of the funds that we want for revenue loss. So we thought that it would be a good idea to lessen the amount of grants that we specified and to take care of our own house in some ways here by having, trying to save some of that money to supplement, our county general fund. So that number is the new number there, $448,077. Next up, we have $25,000 held back for audit expenses that we would move to county general. The way we looked at that, whatever it's going to cost to get it audited, is what it's going to cost, and we will have to use that out of. We'll have $25,000 here as a placeholder, and at the end of the day, whenever this money is needed for the audit, if they still require one at the end, we'll have at least $25,000 to pay for a portion or all of it. If there's any money left over from that at that time, we can reappropriate those funds or redirect those funds, I guess would be a better term. So at this point, we just put $25,000 there as a placeholder. The next two, the plans for universal decline for the renovation of the courthouse of $16,800 have already been paid out. The estimate of $83,200 for that renovation work that we will rebid in the fall, we've kept $83,200 that we will move to county general, but we will keep it in our mind that that's what that money was intended for. Park improvements, $350,000. We have earmarked that for those park improvements, and we'll move that to county general to make that payment when it's due. The broadband make ready for $2.5 million will remain in the ARPA fund. We've already committed to that. We've also already committed to the $2,490,290 for the health program. So that will remain in the ARPA fund. The tanks for St. Anthony, I believe Commissioner Bromas, you sent one that they were expecting at least the $181,000 for the full project of redoing that water tower out by the Forage area. So we've left that in there. There was some discussion to take that down to $100,000, and I thought that one argument that was made was, well, we didn't confirm with them that we were going to pay that amount, but I think they were working under the impression that it was coming, and the committee as a whole agreed to move forward with $181,000 as the committee suggestion. Do you have any feedback or comments on that?
Do I have any comments on that? No, I agree. I think that's what they were expecting. And based on reports from our meetings, they felt pretty confident in that. So I appreciate leaving that in there.
One of the things I brought up at that meeting was, if I go into the commissioner meeting on Monday, I think I'm going to get pushback, and I think I might get at least another commissioner that will want to do $181,000. So I foresaw that. I thought that that's probably where you would go, and I think we as a committee ended up agreeing with that. The fire station, Northeast Dubois Fire District, and the ambulance portion of that building, $300,000. We would earmark that for that project and move it to county general. And then for Patoka Lake, I think this is a reduction for them. We have $100,000 to pay out for their sledge drawing beds and $100,000 for the Dubois sewer project. And then the Dubois County Sewer District, we added just a tiny amount there just to round that up to an even dollar figure. So the regional sewer number is $1,655,000 that would remain in the ARPA fund for that project at that time. So overall, if you look on the right of this document, the total amount of transfers that will go to county general that we would call revenue loss is $1,206,277, $1,206,277. But out of that, all of it, but the $448,077 is already earmarked to a particular project. So I guess I just would like to hear your thoughts on this most recent recommendation of the committee and see where we are with that. I'll start with Commissioner Hofstadter.
We can't make more money. So, yeah, I don't know. Every time I look at this, I just know that for our matching grant to work with the sewer district, we're gonna need at least $4 million. So if the Okra Health Grant and the regional sewer district get lumped, we could make that happen. I'm just afraid that if we keep kicking the can down the road, we're gonna get to a point where we spend a lot of money on studying and possibly engineering, and we get to a point where we don't have the money to match the grant, and it's a big and very necessary project. So that would be my only concern. I have nothing against any of the other things on this list. But that is just the one concern I have is that I don't know where the other money's gonna come from.
So for some of that $448,000 will help the county general in some small amount. But I think like Commissioner Brahma said earlier, if we find the right projects, we gotta find ways to make them happen. I think that sewer project would be one that we could look at for that. Commissioner Brahma's thoughts?
No, I think it's pretty good. As we were moving down through it, I was wondering how these that are earmarked but moved to county general, for example, the renovation of the windows and the what was the other? Oh, the $350,000 for the park. So will they be, as far as ARPA is concerned, will they be declared as revenue loss so that it can be, how does it get moved to county general, in other words?
We get one bite at the apple of revenue loss. So we have to come up with an amount that we want to call revenue loss. So we take all of that 1.2 million, the figure at the bottom of the paper, that all gets taken into account. Oh, yours doesn't have that, I'm sorry. So say.
Okay. All right. Okay, yes.
I apologize.
But I heard you say that. So yes, so the revenue loss figure will be more than the 448,000. It will include those other earmarked items as well.
Correct.
Okay.
Once it's moved as revenue loss into county general, then the council takes it over like it's just revenue in county general.
Right.
So the way this works is this is what we think is happening, or this is our plan. But once it's in county general, the council can do what they want, I
This is
suppose.
what we're recommending.
This is a recommendation, this is a plan, this is the path, but they could, something could come up and they could say, they could change their mind, I suppose. Like, because like that $300,000 for the fire station ambulance building,
Right.
we will move that money in there, and then it's out of our hands again. It will have to be appropriated for that purpose.
Yeah. So I think it's a pretty good plan. I think we've honored some of the at least some of the requests that we've had, and that we led them to believe that they would be honored, and I think we've done that. I think they understand the rules have changed a little bit, and maybe the numbers aren't as high as they might have been otherwise, but I think it addresses all the needs. And as far as the sewer project is concerned, we still, and I know that you know this, but we still have that 30% that we've set aside for the HELP grant. And I would fully expect that some of that might go towards sewer project as well.
I think that's what Commissioner Hofstadter had mentioned that. So my initial thought when he was saying that was, well, not all of it's going to go to the sewer, but then in reality, the pot of money in HELP is going to be our 2.4 plus the $1 million that Oker gives us plus whatever Jasper's money is. So there's a chance that a very good portion of this money can be earmarked towards that project, even if Jasper's money went to other projects and the $1 million match went to other projects, we'd still have a significant amount of this that could go towards the sewer district.
Yes.
That's good. So can we just have a consensus here that this is an approved plan? I guess that would be a good way to go. That way we can tell the council where we are, the auditor knows where we are, and we can make payouts to Toka, St. Anthony. You know, so we can go ahead and make those payouts and get the money moving.
Yes, I would offer my consensus to that.
Yes.
Mayor is in the house now, so Mr. Schneider, we have. That's okay.
He and I were subpoenaed, but all my deputies went for me.
I'm glad you came back in. We are going to, we've already, by consensus, have approved to this ARPA plan. The committee last week has proposed. Since it has our approval, the auditor is going to need to start moving some money around. Do we need to have this formally approved in a certain way, or what do you recommend? Do you have any idea what I'm talking about?
I saw the report. As far as formalizing it, possibly in the form of a resolution from the commissioners, I think would probably be beneficial. Something, or even just adopting a resolution, attaching that as an exhibit to it, I think would be beneficial. And I would recommend that.
So today we can just say by consensus, we're approving this, you'll type up a resolution.
Correct, a consensus to proceed forward with, getting a resolution and formalizing action.
Okay.
Maybe.
I would have expected that we needed a motion on at least the ones that are designated as payout. If we're designated, or if we're instructing the auditor to go ahead and write those checks, would we not need a motion on that?
If we want to pay out right away, St. Anthony Water and Dubois. Okay. So is that okay to do it that way? Or should we wait on all of it? 2 more weeks isn't going to kill anybody, I don't think, but.
Probably not. If they've waited, sorry, not to be snide to them, but we've waited too much, 2 more weeks and get the resolution put in place. Shouldn't be too difficult and get it processed quickly.
Is that okay with you, Commissioner Bramas? We will just put all of it within the resolution that he's going to do. And I guess it'll outline with this document that we are paying them out. So in 2 weeks and 1 day, she could start making the actions to.
2 weeks action, today's Tuesday.
That's exactly that. Is that fair to say, Cindy?
Yes, yes.
That sounds good. So we're gonna agree verbally to move forward with that last Mr. Schneider. All right, thank you. The only other thing that I wanted to bring up, I found.
So you're gonna do a resolution to remove the revenue loss money,
To approve the plan. Basically,
or to, and then what about moving the revenue loss money?
be included in the same resolution.
Okay.
So
I know I'm coming in a little bit, it's all in that exhibit, what I would deem to be an exhibit.
yes. Do you have a copy of it?
I do. Okay.
The only other thing that I had for this week is I found a little note I had for myself, the Sustaining Hoosier Communities, they had a meeting last week. Did you go to that, Mr. Brahms?
No, I did not. I intend to go tomorrow night, I think.
Yeah.
You're talking about the public meetings?
Yes, the public meeting. So
Yes.
I hit the one at the park ones, and what I'm going to put forth as a suggestion would be to help us with our the long-term plan for the county, a 5-year plan of some sort like that for them to help us with, I think would be.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
For them to help us with a 5-year plan, like a comprehensive plan for the
Okay,
county,
yes, yes.
that the cities do. So I'm, yes, I don't have any other suggestions at this time, but I think Councilman Kleesner attended the first one at Vincennes University, and I think he put that forth as well. I think that would pay good dividends for our county to have a plan.
No, I think that's a good idea.
Let's see. That's all I really have with that. So we need to submit projects. If you've got any projects you think the county could benefit from getting some help, for Indiana University students, this would be a good time to put those ideas forward. That's all I have. Commissioner Hostetter, any other business? Commissioner Brahms, any other business?
No other business. I just appreciate you a lot, are working with me this morning and doing this. And I promise I'm going to be in there the next time if at all possible, because this doesn't work real well.
Okay, thank you. Anything from?
No.
You're the only person from the public. Do you have anything you want to tell us?
No, I think I'm good.
All right, great.
Thank you.
We will close the meeting.